This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome aboard for your afternoon sunset safari. We are here on quarantine having a look at these wonderful impala. You can see it's still a bit gloomy, but it doesn't feel as heavy as it did this morning, so hopefully there won't be any rain. Very, very cool. Well, we have lots of plans this afternoon. Ooh, you can see our rain roof and our pole. And we have lots of plans. Like I said, we want to check out the hyena den. We want to find a leopard. So many plans that we'll chat more about it because I need you to grab your binoculars, your bird list, and anything else you need to get on safari. Our impala have just run off into the distance, but jump on board, everyone, for your live safari through the African bush. Away. That's okay, because I have a feeling that there's something out in quarantine. In camp, almost all the antelope were hanging around. The impala, the waterbuck, and the gnus, the wildebeest, were all hanging around in camp. So I'm going to have a really good sniff around quarantine because that usually means that there's a predator here, or at least there was one. My name is Trishala, and I've got Gert on camera with me this wonderful afternoon on Djuma Game Reserve. It's about 22 degrees Celsius, am I right, and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very pleasant out here. And remember, this is your live safari, so do use the hashtag WildEarth or at FC on the YouTube chat stream, or of course you can go over to our website, register if you haven't, and use our question box. We'd love to hear from you and get a whole heap of questions. I think we're going to do a little detour before we head down to the den and check out Western Quarantine. Now, Western Quarantine is a route that's frequented by Shidulu, the leopardess. And like I've said to you before, this overcast kind of weather is great for predators. Remember, I said to you that you can ask questions using our question box on our website if you register. While you're there, why not jump on? Go to wildearth.tv/explorers and see what new and exciting things are happening here at Wild Earth and how you can be a part of it. Become a Wild Earth explorer. So at the moment, it's just me out, but everyone else will come on soon. Susan, wonderful question. You'd like to know what season it is in South Africa? It is currently it's actually summer already. I was going to say it's about the end of spring, but we're in December, which means it is summer. December kind of crept up on us here. When we're at camp, everything kind of mulls into one day. Sometimes I forget when I've got sightings and stuff like that. Everything just becomes a one long game drive. So December just kind of crept up on us, which means festive season is almost upon us. And the weather feels that way too. So Susan, I said we're in summer. And that's when we'll get the majority of our rains, as well as our heat and humidity. It's a wonderful time in South Africa in summer. It really is my favorite type of weather out of every country that I've been to. I love the South African weather. Some people say it's a bit too humid, and sometimes it does get a bit too humid, where you can have a shower and then step out and feel like you've just now had another shower of sweat, and now you have to go back into the shower and have one that's very cold. And our summertime is usually a time when lots of people are coming out here on safari, so it gets busier. Schools are on their break, people are taking leave, etc. People are having braais all over the place, and it's almost like the air in South Africa starts to smell like a braai or a barbecue. So I was saying to you that I'm on this road because Shidulu frequents it. Just had this moment of, should I take my jersey off, should I not? Let's see. So Shidulu does frequent it, so I'm going to have a good look. And then when I'm done here, if I don't see any tracks, I'm going to head down to the den. But I'm going to send you over to Dan at Ingala. He's got some vultures to show you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ingala. Seems like the rain has stayed away. It's probably sitting at around 20 degrees Celsius this afternoon. We've got quite a few vultures, and I mean, there's lots around us on our right-hand side and on our left-hand side. It's a bit of a gloomy day, so they're not up in the sky looking for food. I wonder if they haven't maybe found a female impala that's just given birth this afternoon. But anyway, welcome to And Beyond Ingala, everybody. I'm Dan. Hope you're all well. On camera, we've got BK this afternoon. So, plans for this afternoon, what we're going to be doing is, look at these vultures. They've actually all just taken off. A bit tricky to get them on camera, but let's see if we can't keep going. See if we can find something. So, interesting, not even so long ago, about 5 minutes ago, I stopped to have a look at these vultures and have a good look around. Try and see if we couldn't find maybe the female impala that's maybe given birth. That's just my guess as to what might have happened. Might be a wildebeest also giving birth. There also might be something around that made a kill during the day. And interestingly enough, we stopped. I did a short little walk trying to see if I can find any tracks of predators around. And as we'd stopped, there was a leopard that we heard calling. So the riverbed's not far on our left-hand side here. And it didn't sound like it was very far at all. Those vultures have all flown off now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue down towards the riverbed. I might even stop again. It's amazing out here. If you can use your senses, particularly your hearing, it can get you a long, long way. If you know what you're listening to, from squirrels alarm calling to birds alarm calling, all sorts of things, making the right noise at the right time, you'll find yourself getting lucky quite often. Taylor, hoping for a leopard, let me tell you, I am too. Particularly in tricky weather like this, a leopard would be fantastic. This time of the year is also quite a difficult time for leopards. And the reason I say that is the abundance of babies around. So all the impalas with their babies, the leopards often don't have to walk too far to find some food. And I mean, one of the biggest ways that we actually find leopards and lions is by tracking them. So you'll see a set of tracks crossing a road or anywhere on the side of the road, and then you kind of follow those tracks until you get to the leopard. Now, with them not having to walk very far and to catch an impala lamb, and they'll eat it very quickly, they don't even have to come towards the roads or any area that we can spot the tracks. So the leopard viewing can be a bit tricky. But that leopard calling, my guess would be right, there's a female in this area whose cub is kind of getting to the age where she's going to be leaving mom, or mom's also going to be leaving her, and she's now actively looking for a mate. It's quite early in the day, it's about 3:30, 20 to 4, and for her to be, what we say, rasping. I just want to stop and have a quick look, see some elephants on the other side of the riverbed, see if we can get BK to pop them into shot. There's lots of them, in fact. Let's see. Do you want to go a bit forward, Beeks? So what I'm going to do, actually, there's elephants are quite tricky to see from here on the riverbed. I might pop into the riverbed and go and have a look at them from there. And this actually sounds exactly where that leopard was calling from. So I'm going to quickly pop into the riverbed, have a look at these elephants. It's a really good time to turn off. Watch the elephants, and while we're watching the elephants, keep a real good ear out to see if that leopard doesn't call again. And if it is that female, if she keeps rasping and looking for a mate, she will bring our attention straight to her. She may be walking and moving, calling and actively looking for this male that might be calling back at some point as well. So we're about to drop into the riverbed. It's a really beautiful area. Have a look at the trees around as we go down into the riverbed. Just gonna... Let's see, it'll be quite interesting to see if these elephants don't come down towards the riverbed and then cross over. The banks of the riverbed provide lots of food, soft material, soft nutritious grasses at this time of the year for these elephants. They may spend a bit of time on the banks feeding, or they may come across over in order to feed on the other bank as well. Pussy, what trees do we have at Ngala? Now I hope you've got a pen and paper, and a lot of paper in fact, but the ones that because there are lots of them around. But the ones that I'm particularly driving past now, as I said, there's lots of jackalberries. These ones that I'm driving past are jackalberries. These dead ones over here are dead old fig trees. Then lots of marula trees, apple leaf trees, leadwood trees, all sorts of different trees, and particularly along the riverbed, those jackalberries and the marulas are prominent, and they provide really good horizontal branches for leopards, particularly to hoist their carcasses, to store them there. And in this area, we've got an incredibly high volume of hyenas, or population of hyenas, which can cause a little bit of chaos in a leopard's life, particularly if they don't hoist their carcasses. They will lose them to these hyenas. We're getting closer to where we saw those elephants. Let's see if we can't find a spot to frame them up. A little bit tricky there. Cindy, what are the water hole levels like? At the moment they're quite high. We've had lots of rain. I mean, you're probably asking that question, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you don't see any water in this riverbed. But this riverbed is almost like a floodplain kind of river. And only when there's huge amounts of water or rain will it in fact flood. But the water levels in some of the watering holes, they're full. They're pretty full, or filling up as well. I might do a quick little turn around. It seems like the elephants have moved a little bit further up onto the bank. Through there. No, I think they have turned a little bit further up there. Let's see if we can't find them. It's a bit tricky. I mean, the vehicles struggle in these riverbeds. The sand can be a bit tough. As you can see, I'm turning full to the left and not doing too much. Let's try this again. It's amazing what these vehicles can do. Although it might be slowly now, it's hard work on them. Even walking in this riverbed can be tricky for people. Slowly does it though. Eventually we'll get there. There we go. So I'm going to ask Beeks actually to pop the camera on this left-hand bank. And let's see if we, between yourselves and me and I, let's see if we can't spot these elephants. I mean, you'll think that a huge, big elephant weighing up to even about 6 tons or so will be easy to find. But I promise it's not always that easy. they seem to sometimes just disappear. So keep a good lookout. Let's see if we can't find them. So quite eager to find them and turn off and listen. There's one. Lorna, how does the cold weather... Oh, and there are the elephants. Fantastic. Lorna, how does the cold weather affect the animal's behavior? And the cold weather will actually encourage them to move around quite a lot more. It's similar to us. I mean, if it's very, very hot, and this time of the year in South Africa, it can be incredibly hot and incredibly uncomfortable. So the cooler weather may encourage, particularly these elephants, to move and continue feeding. Predators like leopards as well, they will use this cooler weather to move around and in fact hunt. So, I mean, the cooler weather encourages lots more movement and behavior to be happening around. So that's what we're really hoping for this afternoon. I'm hoping the rain stays away as well. There are quite a lot of clouds, but it looks all right for now. And looks like the next few hours will also be all right. Have a look. I mean, you were talking about the cooler weather. Can you see those ears kind of flapping? I mean, we had quite a lot of rain this morning. It's cool. But in this riverbed, it's actually starting to heat up quite a lot. It's almost feeling quite humid and quite muggy. And those elephants' ears, when they move like that, they will be regulating their body temperatures. Maybe that one's gotten a bit hot and trying to cool itself down. And as we were saying earlier, this kind of spot, I'm glad we've found these elephants in a decent spot to have a view. A real good time to listen. And the camera's facing in the perfect direction as to where I thought that leopard was calling. Listen. Did you hear that? I don't know if you guys heard that, but that was in fact that leopard, and it's now kind of coming back from behind us. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave these elephants for now. I'm going to try and reverse and turn around one more time. I'm sorry you can't hear that, but I certainly heard it, which is actually not a bad thing, because that at least gives us a chance to head back that way towards where I thought it was calling. So I'm going to try and turn around. Those elephants are also slowly moving away. Let's see if this vehicle will turn around in the sand this time. And along the banks, it sounds like this leopard is moving across here. So while I try and turn around in this riverbed, I'm going to send you back to Trishala and see what she can find while I continue to look for this leopard.
Ooh, that's some of the most exciting moments in the bush, Dan. I'm sure he will find that leopard. We hear it calling. Ooh, so much excitement. Gotta go and get it. Here we have our batis nest, our chin spot batis, without anybody in it, which is a bit unfortunate. That's a shame, because the last time we visited a couple days ago, the batis was here. Couldn't see if the chick was there, but there would be no other reason for the female to be sitting in it if the chick was not there. But at least we can see how lovely the nest is and how well constructed it is. Tiny little thing. It's got only a diameter of about 5 centimeters or so. Really, really tiny nest. And it's very difficult to actually see that there's anything happening there, that there is a nest at all, because it's so well camouflaged by bits of lichen, spider web, dried leaves, all of that pulled together to create that nest. You can see that they shred and make that material to build a nest very small and thin and compact. I can hear a black cuckoo in the background. I'm going to be quiet and I want you to listen. Ooh, it's so faint. It goes, I'm sad. They don't generally respond when I do my bird calls. Can't understand why, because they were so accurate. My bird calls, I'm sad. back to this nest. I was hoping that we would find something, but alas, not. So we're going to keep on moving and go to the hyena den. Hopefully they'll be out and about. There could be other nests nearby, I hope so, but it seems that our helmet shrikes have moved on and I hope that the larger ones that we saw in the southwest have fledged. That's my hope. I know the ones that nearby, the helmet shrike nest that's nearby, that didn't fledge, unfortunately. And this little battis is very unlikely to have fledged either. David, you would like to know what is my favorite type of nest? It's a community nest. Spider's nest. Not a bird's nest, but one for the spiders. That's my favorite kind of nest. Those spiders are nocturnal. Every time we see them, we usually see them during the day because it's easier to spot them. But that means we don't get to see too much activity. So this evening, I have two plans for this evening. And if I forget, you need to remind me. Let's go see if we can find some spiders. Coming out of the community nest, spider's nest. Looks like a horror movie when they're all out and about. I like it. And hopefully today it'll be dry this evening, and then we can have a look at the mushroom spores as we wanted to. Good plans for the evening. It's so easy to get sidetracked here in the bush because before you know it, there's a leopard or something else happening. Rosalind, you'd like to know how many birds are in Juba? In the Sabi Sands, there's about 300 different species of bird. In southern Africa, there's almost 1,000 different species of birds. It's like 980 something. So a lot. That's why going birding is sort of like finding a little treasure. You don't know what you're going to see. So much potential, and you travel around. What Pinda will see, being in KZN, is different from what we'll see. What Swalu sees, and it's all still South Africa. We have great biodiversity hotspots, high concentrations of different species in South Africa. Wow, it must be my lucky day. See, I told you, when you guys are with me, there's luck to be had at the hyena den. I'm just going to say the last couple times that you drove with me to the den, maybe your luck was just a little bit faulty, but this time, thank you so much for sending the good luck. Hello, you guys. You're spread all over the place. I'm just going to stop here for now. Hello, cuties. Oh, this makes me so excited. It looks like the adults around, there's Corky. I think it's, oh, there's Heart as well in the corner. So we've got Corky and Heart around. Oof, maybe this means we'll have a nice time sitting at the den and spending the afternoon. Oh, this makes me so happy. So happy. Now, you know how they move around? That was exactly what I was going to say. How they move around, you might get the pole, our rain roof, in the way. But now they've moved there, so let's get into our usual spot. Right there is Corky, in case you're wondering. She's just lying up, not suckling or anything, because her little one is playing out here. So like I was saying, they're going to move around a lot, which means that you might see our rain roof pole quite a bit. Hide all the wires. There we go. Let's try and do this. Megan, you say they're precious? Absolutely. I am so happy, so happy to spend time with these little things. See if we can get a little bit further in. Wow. I guess we're going to be here for a while. My front tire has gone into a hole. Good position, though. Hello, little ones. It's been a long time since I've seen you. So furry and fluffy. Smelling very much like wet dog today. And now too close to even foam. At least they're not biting anything. Over there is Heart. With one of her munchkins. Actually, there's two. The other one is on the other side. Warthog Queen, welcome aboard. You'd like to know how many hyenas there are in this clan? Okay, I'm going to try and count. Corky, Ribbon, June, Heart, and Tima. Cubs, Shimbulu and Gwazi, those are Ribbons 2. Hearts 2, Corky's 1. So that's 10 already. Then other cubs from the other years, 2018, Sutu, Swazi, and Ndebele. Now we're on 13. Clan males, Comet, Kikau, Tsaka, Fika, Falco. So we're already on 18. I know I'm missing somebody. I always miss one of the clan males. They probably dislike me very much for that. Oh, Kuma and Koza. So that takes us to 20. Oh, Luca, 21. And I think that's everybody. So there's 21 individuals in this clan. They're very cute curious today, as opposed to the mischievous curious like they usually are. Ribbons too are getting really, really nice and big. They'll be 9 months old at the end of this month. The first time we saw them was on the 27th of March. So they are growing up very, very quickly. It's amazing. I can't stress enough, and I always tell you this when we come to the den, how special it is to be with them and to be able to watch them grow from cubs and watch generations of them. And watch different lots of cubs being born, and it's marvelous. There's Heart peacefully suckling her too. Dear Wata, you'd like to know when the cubs will start hunting with Mum. It will take them some time. By about a year, they'll already be following Mum around. In fact, before that, between 6 months and a year, they'll be following Mum around if she's hunting. She may not bring them to scavenged carcasses because she doesn't want the animal that she's scavenged from or don't want to put her cubs at risk. So Ribbons too have already been following Ribbon around, and I know that because I've seen their tracks with her tracks as she's walking, and I've heard them whooping around camp. So they're already following her around. But they still won't be proficient hunters before a year old. They'll still be suckling from Mum at that time. Remember, they're only weaned at about a year and a half. Just before that, 15 months to 18 months, that's when they're weaned. And that means they have a long time to develop the strength and skill needed to hunt. So prior to a year, they'll give it a go, but they're not going to be great at it. And then after a year, she's going to really take them along and try to get them to put their practice into practical use. And by 2 years, they're absolutely great hunters. Are we going to first try and figure out if we can get out of this hole, and then we'll be happy, but we are going to stick around. I'm going to send you over to Dan in the meantime.
Good afternoon and welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. Now in the riverbed, while we were trying to follow up on that leopard rasping or leopard calling, managed to find this kudu bull. There's one on the right hand side, but out of visual for now, so I'm going to stick with this one. But an incredibly beautiful animal, and look how majestic it is when it walks through there. The white stripes on the back, that beard in the front, those horns. Now, let's see if it's going to disappear. So I'm going to drive forward a little bit. Bear with me as I try and reposition. Now this animal in particular is quite special to this area and very well known to people who visit the Kruger National Park. It's in fact the symbol of the Kruger National Park with those big, beautiful, majestic horns. And one might think that because of the size of this animal and the size of its horns, let's have a look at that one on the right-hand side. It's quite a beautiful view, actually, and looks quite a bit bigger than the one that we've just been with as well. Let's just try, you see how clever there it is. Quite tricky, but have a look at those horns and have a look at those ears particularly. So as we turned on, look how those ears kind of point right towards us, standing dead still in the thick bush. That white like chevron in between its eyes. Look at how that ear on the right-hand side is moving. Might have heard something. Like us, sitting here in the quiet, listening to see if we can hear that leopard calling again. That kudu is relying on its sense of hearing incredibly to listen for danger or what's going on around it. You'll see, remember those stripes that we saw on the one in front of us? They spend most of their time in these kind of thicker areas, whether it be on the bank of the riverbed or in a thicker area feeding on trees and little bushes, and that's where they can't really see so far. So you see how big those ears are in proportion to the rest of their body. They rely hugely on their sense of hearing to look out for danger. So this male, have a look at those horns. I was talking about it earlier and being so iconic to the Kruger National Park. People would think that these great big animals are really good fighters, but it's not so much. So enlightenment, I'll answer your question shortly. Are there bulls solitary? The answer to your question is no. So this bull that we saw on the right-hand side, and it's different to the one that we saw in the riverbed, but they don't work together. So you'll see we've just kind of come out of the breeding season for kudu where there'll be super competition. But once that competition is done and they've done the breeding, they'll then move off on their own. But maybe in a group of 2 or 3, even up to groups of about 10 or so. And you may often find... Sorry, just stopping. I thought I heard that leopard calling again. I just saw beaks going, listen. Even up to groups of about 10, but they don't really work together. They kind of just move together using particularly that sense of hearing and sense of eyesight as well, all together to look for danger. Look at those white tips at the tip of a horn. So this is a bull that's mature. Look at how thick his neck is, and there are those stripes on the side of it. And as it walks through that bush, those stripes kind of act to break up the shape of this animal, so that when predators are hunting them, they can't pick out an individual or one shape. It'll help to break them up and blend into their surroundings. So those horns, as I was saying, so big and tall, and I think the tallest kudu horns ever found or recorded is about 6 foot tall, which is quite remarkable to even think of. Let's see if we can't move forward a tad, or do we want to try and get this guy in the riverbed? Oh, he's coming right out for us, which is lovely. Once again, those ears facing right at us, listening very carefully. He spent the past few minutes feeding. I wonder if because he was feeding and so concentrated on it that his awareness was into the bush, and as he turns around he needs to make sure that nothing is snuck up on him even in the past few minutes. Have a look at that bird, that oxpecker on its front right shoulder, looking for ticks. So I haven't heard that leopard while sitting here. I may spend a little bit more time with these kudus just to give ourselves the best chance at listening and seeing if we can hear that leopard calling. Maybe give it a few minutes. If not, I'll continue going, seeing if we can't find tracks of this leopard where it's crossing over the riverbed.
It's always good to spend some time with the antelope. Well, we're still at the den, obviously, but this time we're going to listen to the sounds here at the den, be able to hear the little patter of their feet on the grass, and hopefully even some squittering and maybe even a whoop. It's really nice just to sit and watch them and listen at the den. And that was lovely. Didn't make too much sound, but still a peaceful moment here at the den.
Welcome back. It's often quite special to actually spend a bit of time in silence listening to what's going on around you. We're still with this kudu bull, and he's just feeding slowly, moving along the bank where the thick vegetation is. And we have, in fact, in that kind of switch between Trishala and I, heard that leopard calling again. Now it sounds like it's in a different area, so I wonder if there isn't 2 leopards that are calling. And it'll be interesting to see if it is that female that I thought it might be looking for a mate. Sounds like there might be a male that's calling back. And you'll see when the females do start to look for a mate, they'll like almost constantly call and seek out the male. So once again, we're just going to sit here, watch this kudu feeding while keeping our ears wide open and listening all around us. It's amazing how when that kudu puts his head up into the trees, you see how those horns kind of lie back across him like that. Jay, what's the estimated weight of a fully grown kudu? I think this one in particular, he's pretty close to being fully grown, and he may weigh about 200 kilos or so. Big, strong animal, huh? And you'll see when he starts to move through the bush, I mean, those horns can be quite a hindrance, particularly when he needs to be making way quickly. And I don't know if you saw previously, when he puts his head up, those horns kind of lie across his back, making it slightly more aerodynamic, if you would, to run through the bush quite quickly. Can you imagine trying to run away from a lion with 4.5 feet of horns on top of your head running through thick bush? It can be incredibly difficult. But even have a look how big that animal is and how quickly it can disappear in the thick bush. Let's give him a moment, see if it doesn't come out, although it does look very thick in there. Let's see if we can't move a little bit forward and see if we can find the other one that's on the left-hand side of the bank. So I don't know if you can see the rain is starting to come down a little bit. Let's fingers crossed it doesn't stick around for too long. Oh, here's this other one. Nice and close. Just watching us. Quite relaxed though. Kudu can often be quite shy. RJ, what's the difference between a kudu and a nyala? Now, first things, I know it's quite difficult to kind of comprehend while watching a kudu like this without a nyala next to it, but a kudu is quite substantially larger than a nyala. A little bit lighter in color, and the nyala has got quite shaggy coat as well. Those are the major differences. I mean, particularly the males. I mean, the females are very different. The females are like a tanned color with white stripes like you see over here. And the female kudus look a little bit like the males, just without the horns. So move a little bit forward. He's kind of gone behind the bush. See if he won't let us move a bit forward. There he goes, moving up into the bush, trying to find a better place to feed. His left eye, I don't know if you can see, look at his face as well on the left-hand side. On his right side of his face, his eye looked like it was, and now he's turning around, the oxpecker. On his back, look at the yellow eye and the red bull, that's a red-bulled oxpecker. I'd love to see this kudu turn around again. It looked like he might even be blind in his right eye, and he even looked like he had a couple of wounds just behind his eye. And I wonder if that wasn't, I was talking about earlier, kudu's not often fighting, or I wanted to talk about it, maybe I didn't touch on it, because of those horns, those curls on the horns. They're far more for a display rather than a fight. So you'll see males, if they're trying to compete for females, they will kind of move around, walk around, displaying and proving to the other one that they are in fact bigger than the other one. And if they are and they both agree, they'll actually avoid a fight completely. And however, if they are quite closely matched, look at that, can you see that right eye of it? I wonder if that wasn't from a horn that maybe went in there. So when they do fight, if they're super closely matched and they do fight, the curls in those horns can often get caught together. And that will almost certainly, if they can't get unhooked, will be the death of at least one, but very likely even both of them. Because even if the one dies, maybe its neck breaks, or the other one will just die of exhaustion or starvation or even thirst. I mean, the silence is unbelievable. These kudu will move around quite slowly and very carefully. Excuse me, even when they're walking, you'll see Let's see if this one won't do it. To keep extra quiet, it's something that we call register. So when they walk, they place their front foot into a track, and then they take their back foot and they put it straight into exactly the same track that their front foot came into. And that will ensure that they are as quiet as possible when they move through the thick bush. I'm going to send you through to Trishala at the hyena den while I continue to look for this leopard.
Wow. I think that the way the kudu walks is very, very graceful. As much as I love hyenas, they don't walk with much grace, nor do they sit with much grace. But I guess if you want to keep yourself cool and well hyena-scented, that's the way to do it. Heart has just urinated in her little dip. Hyenas will do that. They'll kind of make a little bit of a form and then sit in it, and then often urinate in it and sit in it again, which it has just done. I'm sure there are lots of views, but it's just the way it is. It works for them and it's obviously comfortable. You saw on one side of her body, it's obviously not the first time she did it, because then she got up. You saw she had a urinate mud patch on her side. There also was a particularly foul smell when she did get up, but these are smells that we get used to while sitting at the hyena den. The other cubs are being adventurous. Near where Corky's sitting. But the last thing we want to do is constantly move around at the den. We don't want to disturb them. So we're just sitting tight and hoping that they will come back this way. Screaming. Oh, sorry, it was a crested francolin that was screaming. And these cubs got the shock of their lives running this way. Poor things. They remind me so much of little kids, the way they can be so brave at certain times. And anything that's shocking, unfamiliar, or too close, or something doesn't sound right, it doesn't matter how brave they think they are. If they're not used to it, they come running to the den. Those francolin were actually walking quite close to Hart. Jean-Claude, you'd like to know what the bite force of a hyena is? It's 1,100 psi. Huh? Which is the strongest out of all the predators that we get here, except for that one predator that is unsung, that being the Nile crocodile. These little rascals are now looking for that francolin behind our vehicle. I'm sure it'll call again, and then they'll run this way. Now, Dan was chatting to you about how kudus walk very carefully and very quietly. A leopard as well, very carefully and very, very quietly. If you hear a rustling in the bush, it is not going to be a leopard, ever. They do not make sound as they move, or noise as they move. There's a very specific sound of them falling off out of a tree and running, or when they run, you'll hear it. But a hyena, if you hear the pace of a predator in the bush, then you can hear it in the grass. It is almost definitely a hyena. Then they don't try to hide, and you can even see it from their tracks. They almost hit the ground with their paws in a way that really disturbs the soil and creates quite a messy track and a deep one. So when you see it on the road, even from afar, you can tell it's a hyena track. Hi Joshua, you have a great question. Sorry about our rain roof pole there. You'd like to know, why do animals have tails? That is a very, very important question. Very impressive of you to ask it only 4 years old. Well, you know, we have some really sensitive parts in our body. Like anything you use to go to the loo is very, very sensitive. And a tail blocks that, covers your behind, where you can get hurt, or things like ticks and other pests could go after the skin in that area. So it's important to cover it up. So you and I, we wear pants and we stand upright so our behind is not poking out into the air. And if they didn't have a tail to cover it, then it would be a really good spot for anything like mosquitoes, ticks, pests to latch onto. So it's to protect their sensitive parts. I love that they're getting so adventurous and they're all over the place. Ribbons too, of course, I expect that. But Corky's one is just full of gusto. You know, she's just a confident little creature. Sometimes I feel like she leads the bigger cubs. Isn't that cute? I think Corky's one's also suckling over behind the vehicle. Hearts too are suckling on this side, and Ribbons too are just relaxing. Maybe a bit of a clean. That was a half-hearted attempt. Not surprised. They often wait, and I find it very cute. When Corky's little one is suckling, they'll sometimes just wait like that until she's done. And then when she's done suckling, it's like, oh, my friend's ready, let's go play. It's the feeling I get from them. Ahmed, you'd like to know, how do other predators know to be scared of hyenas? Scared is a strong word, so cautious, I think, is a better word. And it's not just from hyenas. Do you remember we saw with Insele? She was very cautious of the wild dogs. Predators are cautious of each other. It's not particular or special to hyenas. The difference with hyenas, though, is that they are a little bit more daring, a little bit riskier than other predators. Other predators will prefer to have a standoff and each leave without or unscathed than to actually have a confrontation. So there aren't predators that are scared of hyenas, but they are very, very cautious of them. And the way they know this is, one, from thousands and thousands of years of living in the same environments together, developing responses to the way they smell, to the way they sound, and then also learned behavior. Because it's not simply, oh, look how cute that is. It's not simply that they are afraid of a particular species. For example, hyenas will harass Tlalamba. But when it comes to Tingana, not as much. So they know who they can harass, who they can't, and that's learned behavior. That's not a cumulative effect of thousands of years of living in the same place. Green wood hoopoe in the background that you would have heard there. Look at how sweet that is. Don't you just want dandelion flowers all over around him? I do, and mushrooms. It looks magical. A really, really lovely time spent at the den this afternoon.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
Just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill. The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it?
Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River? It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
These two are mooching about like they're restless and they don't know what to do. They can't suckle, and they don't have any friends to play with. Sniffing all over. It's so important to know exactly what your clan smells like. So they'll spend a lot of time investigating scent marks, smells, where others have urinated. Hi, Danique. You're 7 years old and you'd like to know, how do different animals get different patterns on their skin or on their fur? That is a result of one pattern working well for them. So some animals have spots and some animals have stripes. When you see the spots on the animal, it looks like little shadows. And here in the African bush, we have lots of acacias which have little leaves, things like that. So the shadows that get cast on the ground are like little spots. So if you are an animal trying not to bring your attention to yourself, then having a spotted coat would be very useful. We call that camouflage, don't we? But what if you were a tiger and you were in a dense jungle forest and there you just get slivers of light, long bits of light? Then spots won't work as well for you. Then stripes would work better. So whatever works best is the one that animals will keep using. It's kind of like if you put your hair up for school and you have to wear a cap and it's very windy all the time, then you think, oh, I can put my hair in a plait, but then my cap blows off all the time. So I'm going to put my hair in a ponytail, and then I can put the ponytail through the cap. So then every day you'll start wearing a ponytail and you won't wear a plait at all. So the thing that works best is the thing that keeps on persisting. So what we see here is lots and lots of time that has gone in to animals suiting their environment best. So it means that they are well camouflaged. But stripes and spots and other patterns on the coat of an animal all starts the same way. If there's a big blotch, like a giraffe, then that is a spot that's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and just a little bit skewed. If we look at spots in a cheetah or in a hyena, those are very defined spots. Just like if you had a felt pen and you drew spots. And if we think about stripes, stripes are just a whole lot of spots in the same direction. And that makes a stripe. So you can make it out of the same materials, no matter what coat you have. But you just tweak it to see what works best for you to be camouflaged. Dinoco, you'd like to know if any animals prey on hyenas? No, because prey implies that they would hunt and seek out to consume the hyena. They're not animals that do that. But there are animals that will kill hyenas if they come across them. Especially lions. If a lion comes across hyenas, if there's lions close by now, which it is likely, given the tracks that I've heard over the radio, if that lion had to smell this den, they would come towards this den. They wouldn't just ignore it if they could smell hyenas. They'd come towards them and they would try to kill them. Obviously, they can't kill them all. They might only be able to kill one. They might only be able to injure them. They might not be able to get any of them. But that's because predators that are all pretty much doing the same thing. They want to all kill antelope prey species, which means that on some level they are competing. In fact, on the most fundamental level, they're competing. Some might be scavengers, some might be able to hoist kills into trees, some live in prides or whatever, but on a fundamental level, they're fighting over the same resource, prey species. So if they can eliminate some of the competition, they will. And that's why if a lioness comes past you, or a big male lion wolf, doesn't even have to be big. Doesn't even have to, it can even be a sub-adult lion. If it comes through here and takes a cub, it's an instinctual response to eliminate competition. Once that's done, then once the animal's dead, then predators will consume part of whatever they've caught. But remember that eating another predator is not very nutritious. It does offer a lot of protein, but not a lot of energy, because they're quite up the trophic pyramid. And also they can be a build-up of toxins in animals that eat meat. So animals that eat meat, they're only getting 1% of the energy that the sun is producing. Well, even that is at 10% to 1% of what the sun is producing, whereas an impala or a herbivore is collecting much more energy than that. And that's what you want to eat. It's not always healthy, but predators will do it. A lot of it is instinct. Kill something and you'll consume it. Leopards have been consumed, hyenas have been consumed, lions have been consumed, but nothing seeks out those animals when hunting. It's also too much of an expense. You could get injured unnecessarily just because you have a particular taste for hyena today. Herbivores are much easier to hunt. Look how they're waiting. In my head, they're waiting for little Corky. I'd love to see what the progression of this clan will be like. You'd like to know, are hyenas afraid of wild dogs? Again, it's not afraid of, it's cautious of. So if wild dogs come along and they have a kill, hyenas are going to join. But if the wild dog starts to chase them, they're going to run. And then they're going to come back. Because they're not afraid of each other, they're cautious of getting injured, regardless of who that predator is. But each still wants the primary goal, that is to feed. So it's not that they're afraid of each other, it's that they're cautious of each other. I mean, we saw with the wild dogs the other day on quarantine. On quarantine, Sutu came, she got chased, she came back. It's a toing and froing between the predators. Tristan has a birdie friend for you. So why don't we go over and see what it is?
Well, while Trishala's being cautious of, saying they're being cautious of one another, as you can see, our Levailant's cuckoo, I'll get it right eventually, is also being fairly cautious as it tries to swallow a caterpillar. Well, now it's gone. That caterpillar was covered in hairs in the beginning, but as it was kind of manipulating it, so the hairs were falling off. Anyway, it is a very warm welcome to Rusty this afternoon. We've been fighting a few little gremlins, but we've sorted them out. My name is Tristan, and on camera I have got Marcel this afternoon. And we are busy trying to see if we can find Thandi or Tlalamba. And the reason why I say both cats is because this morning, Tlalamba was seen in this area where we are now. And she was lost in this block, and tracks for another female leopard, which we suspect is Thandi, came into the same block from the other side. So we're just trying to see if maybe the two of them have met up somewhere here. We're kind of scratching around, hoping that we'll be able to find some sort of sign of either one of the cats. So far, no tracks coming out, but that's not to say that they're not around, or that they maybe did leave. The roads are quite hard in places, so it can be quite tricky to kind of see them as they go. But it's nice to do a bit of birding today. It's been actually a really decent birding morning. We've had, in the morning, and like I said, this afternoon so far, we've had a number of different species out and about, including a number of the migratory birds, which has been good. Now, in the foreground, you'll notice that there's a big kind of stump that is standing up, that is broken, and this gives you an indication of one, the storms that we've had of late, because you can see this massive knobthorn has broken and kind of fallen. But two, what happens when elephants expose bark for these knobthorns? Now, this particular tree has not fallen over because an elephant has pushed it, and it's not because the storm was so heavy that it broke the tree in half. What's happened here is the elephant has stripped bark from this tree, and it's exposed it to borer beetles, particularly, and those borers tunnel and make these little kind of tunnels through the center of this tree and its trunk. And what happens then is it's basically causing fault lines. Every day that there's wind, so the tree is being stressed, so those fault lines are causing fatigue on the wood, and eventually a big enough wind comes along, and this entire tree then breaks and falls. And it's a shame because this tree was still alive. It was not a dead tree. If you look at the tree where it's fallen, you can actually still see leaves on the branches itself. And so it's died basically from an insect that has gotten in it due to the fact that bark was removed by Ellie. So even though the Ellie didn't push it itself, it's been damaged by elephant indirectly, which is a bit of a shame. Whenever we see these kind of big trees like this, particularly knobthorns, breaking, it's really not nice at all. Zach, you're asking how we track for leopards. Well, basically, Zach, what happens out here, we're very, very lucky that we have quite habituated individuals, so leopards that are used to vehicles as well as being tracked on foot, because when they are born and they are put into a den, we obviously follow their mother's tracks, and sometimes that means that we bump into them with the little cubs, and the cubs get used to seeing somebody on foot, and while they know that they need to be careful of it, they don't get to the point where they fear us as much, and that means that we can follow their footprints. And so basically, as we drive along, what we're looking for is any sign of their footprints on a road, and we follow those as long as we can, and then they cut off roads, and generally they're going to go on game paths, so you can follow along a game path, and if it's in the winter conditions, then, well, it's much easier. Now in summer it's a little bit more tricky, and you follow those footprints until such time as you either hear alarm calls, or you see the cat itself, or potentially you lose the tracks. Now with leopard tracking, I reckon your success rate, if you're lucky and if you're pretty good at it, would be 50% if you're really good. Most people probably only have about a 10 to 20% success rate in terms of actually getting onto leopard tracks, trailing them and finding them. They are notoriously difficult to find. We're just lucky here that we have an extensive road network which allows us to see tracks crossing over blocks pretty quickly. So in areas where you don't have as many roads, tracking leopards is much harder. It's a light animal. There's only 4 little paws that you're looking for. And so it's quite trying when you're going through these thickets. You can imagine through this thicket that you see now, trying to find a little paw print in this is near impossible. But because we have lots of roads, often they just cross the road and then you pick up the track on that road and you keep going and you narrow it down to a smaller area. And then from there, you're going to start relying on squirrels alarm calling, birds alarm calling, impalas alarm calling, and then you can kind of try and find them. So that's kind of the process about how we go about it. So you're using your sight, your ears, and a little bit of kind of knowledge of the animal to know where it likes to walk, and then you're relying on a huge amount of luck in order to be able to find them in the thickets like this. And so hopefully this afternoon we'll have some luck, because this morning, just as we found Tlalamba, unfortunately Rusty decided to give us a bit of a hard time, and so I was very sad because I wanted to spend some time with Columba this morning, but it's the way it goes, and so we'll try and rectify it this afternoon. In the meantime, though, we're going to send you across to Dan, who's already had success this afternoon and is sitting with his sleepy lions.
Okay, give me 1 second, Capra.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Ngala back in no time. Corky's little one has just finished nursing, and now she's back in action. Look at that nose. Snuff, 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 snuff. They have such well-developed olfactory bulbs. Broad noses, big nostrils, with such a well-developed sense of smell. All that personal information, what's their reproductive status, possibly their age, even where they are, where they stand in the hierarchy, can be passed on by smell. So they need to investigate every little thing to develop those olfactory processes. Remember, they can even smell carcasses that they've cached, and they often do that in water. And all that takes practice. I think a corky might have gotten up. When an adult gets up and leaves, some of the cubs often just follow. Decal, you'd like to know how much longer will we have this privilege of staying at the den? How long will the cubs be here and the adults? Well, Corky's little one, she's still got a few months in her, maybe another 3 or 4 months that we'll be able to see her at the den. But given her development socially, she may not be the biggest, but she developed socially much quicker, I think, than Hearts 2. She might be out of the den earlier, but the oldest two, Ribbon's 2 boys, they're pretty much going to be leaving the den in, say, 3 months or so. As in, won't be found at a den. So we have a limited time, but also that's not hard and fast. Sometimes at a year old, they'll go out seeking a bit of shelter in another den, or they'll kind of dig out a little space for themselves. It might be the same one, might be a different one, but they'll reach independence between 2 and 3 years old. So at between 1 and 2, they're kind of in this limbo of wanting to find safety, but not really requiring it anymore, kind of being too big to fit in any of the dens. So the only ones we really need to think about that with are Ribbon's 2 boys. Hearts 2 and Corky's 1, they'll still need some time at the den. I remember seeing in the 2018 cohort of cubs, there was, even at a year and a bit, still see them around den sites. They might not be in it, but they tend to hang around it. Maybe it's just a place of familiarity, a place where they spent a lot of time in their lives. And remember, the adults will only use the den because there's cubs around. If there's no cubs around, then the adults will not be using the den either. It's like a nest. Birds will only use a nest when they need to rear young. Hyenas will only use a den when they need to take care of theirs. And remember that the adults don't fit in the den, can't fit in the den, don't go into the den. Although they do sometimes put part of their body into the den, particularly their bottoms. RJ, you'd like to know how they dig their dens? Usually they'll find a hole that's already created, maybe from an aardvark or a warthog. They'll find that kind of disused burrow, and then they'll dig to adjust it to their needs. They can also start from afresh and dig their own den from afresh, but there's no need to do that when there's so many disused aardvark and warthog burrows that they can use. Porcupine burrows too. That's interesting. She got a bit irritated there with the ribbons too. Even though they're male, they're very high ranked because they are their ribbon's youngest cubs. That's squittering. It's kind of like begging. Always interesting to spend time at the den and see the way that they interact with each other. But now I'm going to send you over to Dan. He's got some sleepy lions.
Good afternoon and welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Now, it's quite amazing what driving the riverbed can produce, particularly after rain. We've managed to find 2 lionesses, and I was chatting about it this morning a little bit, how often when the rain, and particularly when it's uncomfortable, hard rain, the lions will either be spending a little bit of time in the bush trying to hide, but often after that comes straight towards the riverbed. It's kind of comfortable. You can like wiggle your way, make yourself comfortable into the sand. Also avoid all the moisture that sticks around on the grass and in the trees and in the bushes. But have a look at these 2, lying pretty flat in the riverbed and pretty comfortable. The odd little ear flick from that lioness on the left. She's quite a lot younger than the one on the right. The one on the right being an adult and the one on the left being a younger cub, maybe around 2 years old or so. Just looking super, super comfortable. The odd little flick of a tail as well. There are quite a few flies around, even buzzing around us over here. So I'm sure they've got a few flies around their ears and around their tails, trying to get them around on their back as well. Amazing the color as well. I mean, have a look at that female on the right. Her white belly, you see how much it sticks out? And have a look at the one on the left. Look how camouflaged she actually is in the sand. She looks just the color of the sand. The one on the right hasn't even moved. I saw one flick of the tail. The younger one on the left looks like it's wanting to wake up. what pride are these two from? It's quite tricky to tell, actually, from here. My educated guess would be from the Birmingham Pride. I mean, the lioness on the right and the younger one, they're suiting the ages to... Oh, there's some elephants that are crossing a little bit further in the distance there. Be very interesting to see if that elephant doesn't come and try and disturb these lions. My guess would be the Birmingham Pride. We're currently sitting right in the middle of their territory, and it is interesting. The Pride do often separate from one another and kind of find each other in little drips and drabs all over the place, particularly if they're hunting and moving around. PK, I don't know if you can see that elephant in the distance. Let's try and see if we can... Let me see if I can move a tad forward and get this elephant. Okay, let's see. See, it's just climbed up that very steep bank over there, feeding. It's quite far away from these lionesses. They haven't even put up their heads to look. And the wind's blowing in the wrong direction for that elephant to pick up the scent of these lions. But elephants and lions have got an incredibly poor relationship. Elephants, being much bigger and much stronger, will often come and disturb lions that are sleeping like this. Let's see if we can get them both. That would be quite cool. That kind of gives you perspective as to how far it actually is, that elephant. Wouldn't be difficult for it to come and move along the river to chase them. You'll often see, I mean, out here, very rarely do animals go out of their way to go into a conflict or have a fight. But elephants will often go out of their way to disturb lions. And they'll do so if they manage to catch particularly a cub. They will brutally throw it around and kill it. It's just that balance between predator and prey. See the elephant just kind of moving off into the thick bushes over there. On its own, it looked like a young bull. You'll often see younger bulls on their own have left the herd and kind of just look for their own goal. Spend the next few years getting bigger and stronger until they're big enough and old enough to take over their own herd or look for mating rights.
It seems like it is the beginning of playtime. At least it feels that way. So I imagine there'd be some nice sounds. So let's have a bit of a listen. Here and there. Some squittering again. Oh, really, really awesome time here at the den. Welcome back. We're still here with these two lionesses, and
they haven't done too much more. The elephant's kind of moved off into the bush, and I don't think it's going to be coming back to disturb these two. But you'll see on the banks of either river, you saw how quickly he lost that elephant shortly. And anything can actually be making its way down into the riverbed. And if it does startle these lions, remember those kudu that we were watching a little bit earlier this afternoon? If they perhaps are walking along the riverbed and walk down from this thicker bush into these lionesses, they'll kick into gear very quickly and try and take advantage of an opportunity like that. Now, just want to point your attention to the lioness on the right-hand side, the bigger, the older one, where you can see her white tummy. And if you're looking at her white tummy, you can actually see one of her teats. It's quite, you see how that breath of air in? She actually exposed that teat a little bit. Now, I'm wondering if she isn't pregnant. She looks quite full as well. There haven't been any cubs that have recently been born in the Birmingham Pride. But there has been a lioness that's been very pregnant. Now, I wonder if she's not kind of separating herself to maybe try and find a den spot to give birth to little cubs. I mean, for those of you who have been following and know the Birmingham Pride, they are world-renowned for their white lions. And the mother and the father of those white lions are both tawny-coloured lions or normal-coloured lions. And you'll see there's a very good chance. I mean, the father of those white lions will be the father of the cubs that this female is going to be having. It'll be super, super interesting in the next few weeks to see if she doesn't give birth to more white lions and increase this wild population of wild white lions, which is very small, currently sitting at about 4 that we know of. And this spot in the riverbed is really good for a den site. Maybe not, well, this spot might be very good as well. But in the past few years, all the lionesses that have been giving birth to cubs have all done it along the banks of this riverbed. We've been talking about the density of the foliage and the thick foliage on the banks. Those are really good areas to store little lion cubs. Now, this lioness, she does kind of look for a denning spot. If she finds a suitable bush or a couple of rocks maybe that she can hide herself, particularly in the first few weeks, and those little cubs, she'll need them to be completely out of sight, out of sound of almost everything. I mean, when lion cubs are born, they're very similar to domestic cats in how they're completely blind, completely deaf, can't walk, and rely completely on their mother to look after them and feed them. But it's quite tricky. I mean, this lioness will separate herself from the pride. You see how she has done this as well. She'll have to look after so she'll kind of move into these areas looking for this spot, and by separating herself, she doesn't now have the advantage of the rest of the pride to help hunt. So she'll give birth to these blind, deaf little cubs, and she'll have to go and move out to hunt for them and for herself, to feed herself, and she'll need to keep herself fed in order to feed those cubs. So they're incredibly vulnerable when they're born, particularly for the first few months. And if these cubs that are born are in fact are white, they'll be even at a greater disadvantage because of that color. They'll stand out quite a lot. So it'll take she'll chop and change between den sites in the first few weeks and first few months, particularly if her den site becomes compromised maybe by hyenas, or animals start to work out that she is hanging around there. And she may move her cubs, particularly in the first few months. She may even have to pick them up one by one and move them to a different spot that she's chosen in the riverbed, if she chooses the riverbed, that is. And then they get to about 3 months old, and then they start to be more confident, walking around, moving around. And that's the kind of point when mom starts to introduce these cubs to eating meat. She'll still be suckling them. She'll suckle them till about 9 months old or so. It is different between each litter of cubs. And depending on the amount of cubs in the pride as well, will determine how how often she takes these cubs to the pride. So from about 3 months when they start to eat meat, she may start introducing them to the pride. If they're covering huge distances, she may hold back because the little ones can't keep up with the rest of the pride. Oof. And if that wasn't a dream, or if she heard something, just pop her head up. And if there are older cubs, which there are in the Birmingham Pride, and she'll be producing quite a lot of milk at that stage, you'll see the older cubs will come and try and suckle from her, and that'll actually kind of push her little ones away, putting them at a disadvantage that they don't have any food. So Tristan, I'm going to spend a bit more time with these lions. I wonder if the rest of the pride isn't around here. But I'm going to send you from here to Tristan's lovely landscape.
Well, talking about prides and things like that, we are trying to see if we can find any sign of prides or leaps of leopards while we kind of sitting on top of First Rock. But alas, all we're finding is rain at this stage. You can see to our east there's another belt of rain that is coming through. It's a massive system that we've got that's rolling in kind of off the Mozambican Channel at this stage, and what you get is these sort of columns of rain that is falling in various places. Luckily that column there shouldn't affect us at all. That should bypass us to the north, and we shouldn't worry too much. But generally our big rain does come from that side, so the southeast is where we get really most of our heavy rains. They roll in from that side, like I say, off of the Mozambican Channel, and then we get really good rains. And a lot of what we've had over the past few days is coming from that side. The wind is blowing in from that direction, and so that's why we know. The reason why I sat up here and watched the rain for a little bit and just kind of took it easy on top of the rocks is that where we are is not only is it a high point, so you can kind of see a long way, but it's a point that is quite central to where we're looking for these leopards that I was describing earlier. And so when you sit here, it's a good chance of hearing any alarm calls from up here. There's a drainage line that's running just in front that you can see that drops off of the rocks, and it bends round and it goes kind of down, and then it joins the Mulawanini and heads all the way into Chitwa. So as it bends this way, then Chitwa is straight down kind of through this little gap area here, and that's kind of the riverbed, or this little drainage line that you see here is where Thandi is keeping her male cub pretty much all the time. And so coming up onto these rocks, you often get a sense of what's going on, or if he's around, if she's around, because you'll hear guinea fowl, you'll hear a francolin, you'll hear some sort of bird give them away, or a squirrel, and we've got impalas behind us. So there's lots that goes on around here. And on top of that, at the moment, is if you look in front of me, you'll see there's various little puddles of water on the rocks. Now, we've seen what happens to cats when they drink at dams. Obviously, we had that very sad sighting of the cheetah cub being taken by a crocodile. And so what you'll find is when rainwater collects on top of these rocks like this, the cats absolutely love it, and they come up and drink from here. They know that they don't have to worry about a single thing drinking out of a puddle like that, and the water is pretty fresh. I know it doesn't look that great, but that would have formed during the course of last night and this morning, so it's pretty fresh rainwater. There's no chance of crocodiles, and so it's a place that they like to come and lie. On top of it, on a cool day like today, these rocks are often a little bit warmer, and so it's a good place for them just to sit on and take it very, very easy. Alas, though, today, no sign of any of them, and no alarm calls that we've picked up. I was hoping we would hear something. I heard some Franklin's alarm call. What's that bird over there? Marcel, can you just... Looks like a little sandpiper or plover of some sort that's just landed. You often get some really weird stuff on top of these rocky areas. A three-banded plover. That's not weird. But you often get some random things that land here, particularly when you get a lot of water like this. You can get some crazy little birds that arrive. But that's a three-banded plover, normally associated with quite big water points. But that would be taking advantage of these little watery kind of puddles, much like what we were talking about with the cats. There's a huge food element here with very little competition. And so they don't have to kind of fight with larger sandpipers and the likes around the fringes of these little water points, and they can find the food that they're looking for. The one thing that I don't see today, which is odd, is the giant plated lizards Generally, these rocks are crawling with giant-plated lizards in the afternoon. Sometimes you can see 40, 50 of them here, but there's absolutely none today. It must be to do with the weather. All right, we're going to carry on. We're going to try and see if we can pick up any other signs or just, well, anything that comes our way. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Dan at And Beyond Pind. Angala.
Welcome back, everybody, and what we've got here is a little bee eater. Oh, 2 of them now. So this is quite amazing, actually. You see how the 2 of them are together? They'll be together, and they might be... Oh, see it fly off like that? Amazing when it lands like a little trampoline on that branch. So these... Off it goes, hunt, catch an insect, back. And you see how they move their heads, kind of constantly looking around for insects. And in the name, it says bee eater, little bee eater. They don't exclusively eat bees, but they eat insects. So you'll see from this point, these 2 are hunting, and they sit there looking around. If they see an insect, they'll fly off, quickly grab one and fly back. You'll often see them catch one as well. And if it is a bee with a little sting, look back to the same spot. Doop. And he shoved his mate off of the branch there, the bouncing branch. And if they do catch one, maybe if it is a bee with a little stinger, and it'll rub the sting out of on that branch. Megan, cute little birdies. They are incredibly cute, and they're small little birds, and they've picked a very bouncy branch. It's quite interesting to see that whenever they take off, the other one nearly falls off, and when it lands, it also almost falls off again. But they've put quite a lot of trust in one another. See how they're both facing different ways? Gives them a real good opportunity to see all the insects that are flying around. Oh, didn't even have to leave there. Looked like I tried to grab one. Love how those tails are also kind of like wagging on the top there. I wonder if that's not for balance on that bouncy branch. And they're quite beautiful. I mean, if you look very carefully on the top of their eye, they've almost got like this blue eyeliner on the top. That like yellow underneath the beak, that black eye stripe, green backs. And they're lovely to sit and watch because although they do have certain perches that they'll use and hunt, you see how they've kind of left like that? Leave, maybe it'll come back. As I'm saying that, now it's picked a different perch to go to. Let's see if this one doesn't either follow that or stick around on this perch. And if it's a good one, maybe the other one will come back. Beautiful birds, though. I love how that head is just always working and moving and turning, looking for anything that might fly by. Kind of turning its head to watch us occasionally as well, make sure that we're not making any kind of approach or threat towards this bird, which we're not. And because of that, it's very happy and very comfortable sitting there. Oh, there comes the other one. Back again. Oh, off it goes. Yeah, almost as if it wanted to land on the vehicle. It kind of flew to the right, then came right towards us. Dee, what's my favorite bird? It's a bit of a tricky question, and I'm a big fan of birds. I think the kingfisher family is probably... Oh, did you see how that one gave the other insect to it? Dee, I think I'd probably have to go with a pied kingfisher. I think it holds a lot of, I guess, sentimental value to me growing up and my dad and all sorts of things like that. So I think I'd have to go pied kingfisher. But let me tell you, bee-eaters are not far off. I think they're some of the most beautiful birds out there, particularly these little ones. It's amazing. I can't even see these insects that they're catching. But there must be a lot. Look at the activity. I mean, they stop for a couple of seconds, particularly the one on the right. Looks like a slightly better hunter than the one on the left. Oh, as I said that. really showing off here, aren't they? I wonder if I can have a look and see what they're actually feeding on there. It might be small flying insects. They're too small for me to see. But it's obviously a very good hunting spot because they haven't moved and they're flying off very regularly to feed. Oh, back again. Thought they were both gone. Just watching us now, keeping a lookout. You'll often see these birds and other birds that feed on insects and hawk from these kind of positions will follow bigger animals that are moving through the grass, and as they move through the grass they kind of disturb the insects, and as you see the insects get disturbed, you'll see the birds fly down and grab them. Glenn, aren't they orange in color under their wings? If you give me a moment, I'm just going to open a book and I'm going to show you what they look like when they're flying. They're not orange, they're more yellow. But give me one moment to find them in the book. So, Glenn, if you have a look here, I mean, first things first, we have a look at the whole bee-eater family, but it's this one in the top right-hand side of the corner. And you see that yellow underneath the beak, and it's not so much orange on the wings, but like a darkish yellow. I guess it is a tad orange. It's quite difficult to see in this light, particularly after all the rain that they've had. And you'll see in the next few weeks, if not months as well, that their colors will become far more vibrant than what they are now. And that's because of the high density of the insects that are around. And you'll see the European bee-eaters. I actually heard some flying over shortly, not so long ago, if they are on the next page. These European bee-eaters in the bottom left, they have made an incredibly big journey all the way from kind of Eastern Europe into Spain and things like that. And they've got here, and they've made it here specifically for these insects. And you'll see a long journey like that will take it out of the birds, and you'll see they arrive looking quite dull and quite boring. But in the next few weeks or few months, after lots of feeding, particularly on the alates, those termites, the reproductive stage in the termites, they then become this incredibly vibrant blue, and the colors become very visible before they go back and breed. So yeah, I mean, you can see these bee-eaters are incredibly beautiful in color, and Dee Dee was asking me about my favorite bird. I don't think specifically the bee-eaters, however, they certainly right up there in terms of beauty and in terms of color. Particularly these little bee-eaters today showing off. I think they've got to be right up there on people's favorites. You can sit and watch them for an incredibly long time. They look like they've got no necks. They're kind of like putting their shoulders up and still looking around, just moving. I wonder where the second... nope, that's not enough. That looked like... Give me 1 second. So, Beaks, if you have a look at the top of that dead tree. I don't know if you saw that other bird fly in. And it's at the top of that dead tree there. It's a female Redback Shrug. Very cool bird, actually. We were talking about migratory birds earlier, like European bee-eaters making incredibly long journeys down to South Africa for particularly the insects and the life and the food that they can feed on here. This Redback Shrug is no exception. They've arrived back in the past few weeks, maybe even up to a month ago or so now. But they're small birds. You can see how small it is. Made a huge journey, almost as far as Mongolia and almost as far as Russia. That's pretty much across the whole world. And they'll do that flight once a year. or twice a year, once there and once back, which is quite kind of crazy to understand. So showing off, you can see it's got kind of like a black eye stripe. The female's can be a little bit trickier to ID than the male. The male's got, called a Redback Shrug. The male's got that very red back and that black eye. Alien, they blend in beautifully with the vegetation. This one particularly, have a look. You can see it at the top of the tree with the dead tree and quite a dark background. This bird blends in beautifully. And remember those bee-eaters that we were watching? When they turn their backs, having all that green on the back, they also blend in incredibly well to the green bushes that are around them. I wonder if there isn't going to be a male Redback Shrug that comes through and shows us the difference between the male and the female. Filming birds can often be quite tricky, but it seems like this afternoon they are playing their part and staying still and hunting and showing off, which is making our jobs quite easy and your viewing great. So I hope you're enjoying it. So looking a little bit puffed out, that Redback Shrug. Wonder if it didn't get a bit wet. Maybe it's come from a spot where it was feeding and hunting as well and got its feathers a bit wet. Let's go back to the bee-eaters. Funny bunny blue or funny blue. Sorry if I got that wrong. But these ones, we're going back to these bee-eaters, these little bee-eaters, and they have got slightly forked tails. You can see it there, slightly forked. So that answers your question. The Redback Shrug, they don't have forked tails. If you look very closely, there might be a slight fork in it, but no, you'll often see them standing still and they've got quite square tails rather. But this little bee-eater, we were talking about them blending into their environment, particularly when it's facing away from us. You see that dark green on the back and the dark green in the background. It does blend in very, very well. Look, you've got to really be on the ball to see that. You look for the movement mostly. So I think these bee-eaters and that Redback Shrug for that matter have really shown off this afternoon. I'm probably going to keep going. I'm going to hang around in these central parts where we heard those leopards rasping. Maybe we're going to get lucky as it starts to get a little bit dark and a little bit later.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
welcome back. Well, we haven't had much time to go any further than these birds, but they're still hunting and flying around, and it's actually quite amazing to just sit and listen and watch this, particularly because it doesn't happen all too often. I mean, for a bird to sit so still for so long, they're really providing great entertainment. As it's starting to get a bit later as well, I think there's far more insects that are starting to fly around. I can hear a few buzzing around my head. I can see the odd one flying. And that's what's keeping this bird so busy, is all the insects flying around. I wonder if those lionesses that we were with earlier, as it's starting to cool, or not that it's cooling down much, it's been pretty cool the whole day, but getting a bit later, I wonder if they're not going to get up and start to move around. We're not far away from them, so I'm going to keep a good lookout behind us in the riverbed, try and see if they do start moving around. Wonder if they're not going to start contact calling or even roaring to try and relocate the rest of the pride, if that's what they want to do. If they want to hunt, they won't be calling though. Obviously when you call, you bring your presence, or you make everybody else aware of where you are and what you're doing. And people, I mean, myself, I'll listen out for that to try and see if we can find lions. Hyenas will also listen out for that, try and see if they can find or scavenge some food. You'll see often like bee eaters like this one as well. If there were lions around, I don't know if you remember earlier, that lioness was flicking her ear and flicking her tail. So when those lions are flicking their tails and flicking their ears, and there's bee eaters around, you'll see those bee eaters flying incredibly close to where the lions were, feeding off of those flies that are potentially buzzing around their ears or tails. If there's a wound or a carcass as well, those will often attract large groups of flies, which these birds would love to feed off of. So it's amazing, like lions. Just listening quickly, I wonder if I didn't hear a lion contact calling there. So I think I can hear a lion contact calling from in the riverbed. I can't see any of them yet. I wonder if she's not going to pop into the gap here. Give her a few moments. Let's actually quickly just move a little bit. I'm sure they're right here, in fact. Give me one moment. So I'm just going to quickly, oopsie, put my nose off of the road here and see if I can't see. Okay, I can actually see them, but you're not going to get a view of the camera. So I'm going to go back towards the riverbed where we left them, and let's see if we can't see. It looks like they might be up and moving around as well, these lions. So just bear with me for one moment. Amazing what can happen when you're actually watching a bird. Do this nice and slowly. Yo, nice and wet and sticky in the road. It's amazing what the rain can even do to the roads. Taylor, what is the top predator of Africa? So it depends what you classify as that. Do you classify the top predator as taking the biggest animals down? Taking the most animals down? Or So there are those two lionesses, Taylor. I'll be with you shortly. Let's just quickly have a look from here. See, they have moved a little bit. Sorry, I'm in the way. So, Taylor, which is the top predator? So let's make some classifications. Who brings down the biggest animals? That can be a classification. Who is the most successful predator on hunts? Let's keep those two for now. So lions will be the predators that bring down the biggest prey, generally because they've got the advantage of being in smaller groups or prides. And having lots of numbers allows them to bring down big prey, such as giraffe or buffalo, or even in some areas, smaller elephants. I've seen hyenas taking down rhinos and things like that as well, which is a pretty big prey. But in terms of success rates around here, certainly wild dogs are the top predators. They, more often than not, whenever they head out on a hunt, they manage to come right and actually kill something to feed themselves. They also have the advantage of moving around in groups, but you'll see they don't always catch the biggest prey. This time of the year, they're catching lots of impala lambs, particularly impalas, in fact. And when they've got big packs, I mean, recently we have been seeing a few packs moving around here. That one Ngala pack of about 21, they might even take 4, 5, 6 impalas in a morning or an afternoon to feed everyone. So they are definitely the most successful predator when it comes to hunting. I don't know if you can see those lionesses in the background. There's my head in the way again, sorry. I mean, big prides of lions will also need to take down bigger prey to feed them. This Birmingham pride, of which these two are a part of, Birdman, why do we never see oxpeckers on predators like lions? And that's actually a very good question. And that's not to say, I mean, oxpeckers are more often than not feeding on the ticks inside of, or on the backs of herbivores. You won't see oxpeckers on the back of elephants either. Elephants can't stand them or actually actively chase them. There certainly are ticks on lions. But can you see what that lioness in the front there is doing? Licking her paws and licking her paws. They're quite good at getting the ticks off themselves. And they also don't like the presence of the oxpeckers on them. They don't like the feeling, so they'll actually chase them away. And they don't need them to rid themselves of ticks. They've got incredibly rough tongues, so they can actually just lick them off. And that other lioness that's lying there, if there's a tricky to get to spot, like maybe behind that one's ears, that maybe some ticks are, you'll see another lion actually helping it take those ticks out. But you'll see oxpeckers are a fascinating thing. They're actually vampiric, so they feed on the blood inside the ticks. So you'll see often when there's large wounds on these animals, they'll go and sit at those wounds and keep them open for an incredibly long time, picking and keeping the blood coming out rather, and not allowing that wound to heal up. That one looks like it's cleaning its nails, in fact. You can actually even see the nails that have been pulled out. Look how sharp they are. I mean, and look at the other lioness's paws and the other paw that this lion isn't licking. You can't see any of those claws that are sticking out. It's amazing how they're actually able to retract those claws. And those claws are actually incredibly useful, particularly when running at high speeds. They'll help with grip, and particularly when taking down big prey. We were talking about listen. Difficult to hear, but that's what I was hearing when we were watching that bird, and that's what actually brought my attention to them coming down here. You see that big yawn, that contact call. I wonder if they're not going to get up and start moving around. With that contact call, it suggests to me that they're trying to link up with the rest of the pride. Tico, how many lion prides are there in Ngala? It's actually an incredibly difficult answer to give you, a straight answer. And the reason for that being, because we're an open system, there are no fences. Lion prides can come and they can go. So this Birmingham pride, of which is about 18, and they have those two white lions, they have a majority share of the territory in Ngala, and that's a pride that we see most often. But you'll see territories are super fluid. So if the Birmingham pride goes a little bit north, that'll allow a pride that's a little bit in the south to come into that spot. So let's try and count. In the central parts, we've got the Birmingham pride. We'll have the Mbiri pride that comes in from the south or the southeast. We've got a Squirrel pride that comes in from the east. That's sitting at 3. Then in the north, we might have the Shikukutsu males that come through, the Avoca pride that comes through, the Birmingham breakaway. So that's about 6 different prides that we might be seeing at any one point, which is quite fantastic. And because I was mentioning how fluid it is, when one pride moves one way, that'll allow or give space to another pride to move in. And they will guard their territories fiercely, particularly when the males are around. The other prides will make space. And with those prides having their territories, the females will be there almost permanently. And the males are the ones that kind of chop and change between. I thought I heard another contact call. I don't know if it was from that lioness, but as I turn around, her head is still down. But if it was from another lion, I wonder if she wouldn't have put her head... Oh, there we go. Her head is up. Listening very carefully. Look how she's turning around. I wonder if I didn't hear another contact call. But yeah, let's say 6 different prides could come through here at any one point. It's amazing the color of these lines in that sand, hey? I mean, it's super open, so it's not the greatest of camouflage. But just lying flat down like that, it could give them the... Listen. Soft little contact call. The older lioness isn't really interested. I wonder if the younger one's just not getting a bit lonely and wanting a bit of attention. She's calling incredibly softly. I can barely even hear it, and I'm quite close to them. I'm wondering if it's not going to get louder, though. We'll have to wait and see if it does get a little bit louder. Although you can't hear it, lions have got an incredibly good sense of hearing. And if a pride is nearby, they'll certainly be hearing it. And if they are wanting to join up, they may start contact calling back. Let's see if we can't put ourselves closer to in front of this lioness and see if we can't hear her. Although it is quite soft, it is a beautiful noise, deep. So let's have a look. See them lying down there? The one's head is still facing that way. I'd love to see the rest of the pride come through and join up and kind of have this reunion. Are the lions in South Africa bigger than the lions in East Africa? In the Kruger Park, I don't think so. I think the lions in East Africa are slightly bigger. This Birmingham pride is notorious for having very, very large lions, particularly the females. Kalahari, however, has also been notorious for having huge lions, and that's in South Africa. So I would say let's put Kalahari lions at number 1, as in being the biggest, then the East African lions, and then let's put the Kruger lions there in 3rd place. However, that's not to say that they're small. They're still massive, particularly the lionesses in this Birmingham pride. If they get up and walk closely to you, or if they are even roaring. So that one on the right is calling softly and it's now facing a different way. Come on, turn this way and do that again. I'm sure this spot is going to give us a good spot or good chance at hearing her. very soft. It's like she's trying, but nothing's really coming out. You see when she turned her head here, have a look at her nose when she does. She's a very young lion, maybe around 2 years old or so, and she's still got a very pink nose, which as she gets older will change. I wonder if there's a few impalas that have kind of dropped into the riverbed behind them. It hasn't got her attention completely. She's more interested in contact calling. I mean, those impalas will be able to hear the contact call as well, so they're not going to be coming anywhere near here. Have a look, are they even watching here? No, they're not even too worried. Would have been very interesting to see if those impalas didn't come down a little bit closer to where these lions are. You'll see a sleeping lion wake up very, very quickly. It's amazing. The younger one's doing all the calling here. I mean, the lioness on the left is certainly listening. If she didn't get a reply, or if she does get a reply, her head will poke up and listen. The older lioness is fast asleep. Kind of comfy, you know how sometimes when you're sleeping you put your hand underneath your pillow and make yourself comfortable. Done exactly that. So I'm actually going to leave these two lionesses, particularly with that younger one calling, and she's kind of just put her head down now. I'm going to spend some more time driving around in the riverbed, seeing if we can't find the rest of the pride. If they are close by, they might be coming straight towards these two. I'm going to send you over to Tristan in his search for leopard. Good luck.
Well, I feel like we need to go and find Dan and rub shoulders with him to get some luck off of him, because we've had no signs our side. There's not a single track that comes out of the blocks where they lost the track for what we think is Tundi, or where they actually last saw Tlalamba. I think I've driven those roads about 7 times now in circles. I felt a little bit like a hamster on a wheel at one point there. And so we've decided to give it a little break for a while. We're just heading slowly towards Buffelshoek Dam. Going to try and see if maybe we can sit and watch the hippos for a little bit. Maybe while we're sitting there we'll be able to hear something, and then from there we'll do another loop just along the boundary, see if maybe we pick up any sign of one of those cats. But it's been quiet otherwise. We've seen very little in the way of antelope. There's been no impalas, no kudu. Cheetah cutline used to be a great place to find zebras, but nothing of that ilk either. So been a little bit quiet this afternoon, and it's just started to rain recently, a slight sort of drizzle, which has meant that the birds have all settled down as well. Glenn, so it depends on the seasons. We're very seasonal here when it comes to rain, although this year wasn't quite the same as normal. But generally our rainfall period is between October and May. That's when we get rainfall, so summer rainfall for us in the southern hemisphere. But in terms of how much rain we get, it's very, very variable. So to give you an idea, last year, by the end of November, beginning of December, we still hadn't received any rain and the bush was dry. It was pretty much brown still. We got some good rain in December, which allowed it to all green up, and then really good rain in January. But the frequency of the rain is different every year. This year we've had a really kind of good year from a frequency point of view. We're getting rain at least every 4 or 5 days for the most part. Whether it be soft rain or hard rain is irrelevant, but generally we've had decentish rain. But theoretically this area should experience more thunderstorm activity, so we should get a summer rainfall that is basically hot weather and that causes hot mornings and a build-up of cloud and big thunderstorm in the afternoons and evenings. This year has been a little bit different. We've had a lot of frontal weather that's coming through, so getting a lot of what we're seeing now, like systems coming through and soft soaking rain for multiple days, which is good. I mean, it's led to really thick, dense bush already. And now we all await the big rains, which generally come in January and February, that will really fill these dams. And considering how full they are already, if we get any sort of rain like we had last year, January, we're going to have dams that are overflowing massively and filling up very, very quickly. So it'll be an interesting kind of few months to see what happens with the rain. Now, my idea to come to Buffelshoek Dam has been thwarted by the fact that somebody is enjoying a afternoon gin and tonic. I'm very jealous. Oh wait, before we go past and leave them to their own devices, there's a yellow-billed stork here, which I haven't seen on Djuma in, I don't even know, a long time. I can't even remember when the last time we had a yellow-billed stork was. It's been ages. They're fairly common throughout the Kruger region. You can see it's using its wing to shade the area to reduce glare in order to be able to see better. But like I say, we haven't seen a lot of these guys at all. If you go into the Kruger, though, they're absolutely everywhere, which is why I'm surprised we haven't seen more of them this year, given how much water we do have, particularly on Djuma and Buffelshoek. But it seems as though this one has found its way here. Maybe with the wind that we've had lately, it's blown in off of one of the rivers. You often find them along the Sabi River, and they utilize these kind of pans that develop close to those rivers areas. Cool to see, though. Very, very nice. I love the way that they go about their business. They have this massive yellow beak and kind of move their feet, and then they grab fish and frogs as they go. Warthog Queen, rarest animal found on Djuma. If we're talking mammal, probably, I mean, it's tricky because, so here we have had a sighting of a, maybe the hippo on the right is going to be better. We have had a sighting of a brown hyena in 2009, which is the last known sighting of a brown hyena in this area. So that would be considered very, very rare. Pangolin, which is always something that everybody knows about. Aardvark, caracal would be a seriously rare one for this area. And then probably my one that I would go for would be striped polecat. Striped polecats, I don't think we've ever had one on camera, and I only know of one individual that was seen for a while around Chitwa at the hangar there, and that's disappeared now. So I don't even know if there are any striped polecats left or brown hyenas in this area. I don't think so. The number of game drives that goes out, you would expect people to see them. So probably those two animals would be the rarest if they were to make an appearance. There's also an aardwolf that is cruising around Torchwood and Nkoro. That's also the only one that I know of in the Sabi Sands. So yeah, those would be mammal-wise. Bird-wise, difficult to say, because every year with every kind of passing day and rain and storms and things, you can get rarities that come through. So that's an ever-changing thing. So yeah, birds is a tricky one. Insect-wise, well, if we go spider-wise, hedgehog spider would be very, very rare. As far as we've only ever found two of them, one down on Shabamo and the other one outside of our final control. And actually, no one really knew that they occurred in this area until we found those two individuals. So yeah, it depends on what we're looking at, but those are kind of some of the really rare individuals that we get out here. Any of those would be an amazing thing to see. All right, we're going to carry on and leave everyone to their gin and tonic, and let's see what else we can find.
Tristan, I really wish you well in that leopard search. I'm just going to spend a moment here listening to what's going on around us, listening for all sorts of sounds from this African bush. So it is amazing just to take that time out to listen. I was really hoping that leopard that we were looking for earlier was going to call. This is kind of where I thought I heard it last. Give Tristan a hand from Ngala and Juma, both of us looking for leopards, or even maybe the rest of the Birmingham Pride to call, and maybe those two will join up with them this afternoon.
We have not been having the best luck in our leopard search or our elephant search. But now we are here at this African water on the chameleon search. I have my binoculars out. It's strange what you can use your binoculars for sometimes. Can you hear the testiculars in the background all shouting at something? Whatever it is, I can't see what it is. But they seem to be shouting quite incessantly. There's also a few drops of rain. You can see the wind picking up that wattle, blowing in the wind. There might even be some thunder in the distance. But for now, we're okay. I want to just swing around and see if I can see what these testiculars are getting angry at. It's probably a snake or something like that, because I can't see a big animal. Valerie, you'd like to know why I love chameleons so much? It's because they have such unique adaptations. I like them and spiders very much. Super fast tongue, produce a ridiculous amount of force. Eyes that move in different directions and that can focus without using both of them. It doesn't have to bring both of them in to give depth. It can actually perceive depth with one eye. It's amazing. Not as good as with two eyes, but they still can. They look amazing. They have all these different layers of cells in their skin that contract and expand to change its color. What isn't there to like? Prehensile tail. They walk in a really cool fashion. What's not to like? But all those crazy adaptations in one little animal. Same goes for spiders. So many crazy adaptations. This cool little thing. Venom, silk, simple eyes, unlike insects that have compound eyes. Simple eyes, forward-facing around their heads. Just gorgeous. What's not to love? Also, I love when chameleons look at me. But I can't seem to see what the testiculars are shouting about. Just got my binoculars on. Look underneath that bush quickly. No. Can't see a thing. Oh well. We'll let them shout away then. Leopard lover, you'd like to know what would happen if we took ticks out of the ecosystem? That is an interesting question. For one, ticks are a massive food source for a lot of animals that enjoy blood in a nice, neat little capsule. For example, red-billed oxpeckers or yellow-billed oxpeckers. They enjoy a bit of blood like that. Apart from that, them being a food source, of course, then oxpeckers would start to then just prioritize open wounds
and then that what is perceived as a symbiotic relationship, but really that's very questionable, will become a completely parasitic relationship between oxpeckers and their hosts, because all they'll be doing is keeping wounds open and infections would be rife. Birds also like ticks. But it would also be in that maybe any viruses or diseases that are carried by ticks would not be so prevalent, but perhaps that would mean that there won't be or some measure of biological control will be lost. But that being said, it's not always doom and gloom. You never want to interfere with an ecosystem, but also it's important to know that not everything is an extreme. For example, if you remove mosquitoes from the ecosystem, it's not going to be a huge thing in terms of what we know already. There are very few things that are pollinated by mosquitoes, and it is a food source, but a very little, small food source. The only reason I know this is because I've been reading about malaria eradication, and one of the thoughts were about how bad would it be if we tried very desperately to kill all mosquitoes, basically. But the thing with an ecosystem is it's such a finely architectured building or construction that removing one little thing, it's like a house of cards almost. You don't know what removing the one thing is going to do. You may have a whole lot of stats and a whole lot of research and information that goes into that decision, but in actual fact you'll never really know until it's done. And once it's done, it's too late. So it's not a risk that anybody is willing to take. So ticks, we might think, so many animals be free of that pest, but also a food source would be missing. And in the case of the oxpeckers, that's a great example, because they'll what is, in my opinion, a slightly parasitic relationship, but mostly symbiotic, that the red-billed oxpeckers and yellow-billed oxpeckers have with herbivores will become completely parasitic. And that could mean masses of dead herbivores due to infection. So it's a huge question with a massive answer, as you probably gathered. Atlanta Jewel, you'd like to know if it's confirmed that elephants could destroy the environment completely. No, it's not confirmed. It has been modeled. Is it a concern? It is not a concern, because it is, or rather, it's not a global concern. It might be a concern in specific areas where the density of elephants is too high. When I say too high, that means that artificially it's been, and somewhere in the environment has been adjusted that has allowed elephants to become quite prolific. So a certain area has a carrying capacity. That means it can take a certain amount of animals without changing the environment. That being said, there's nothing wrong with an environment changing. It's just because we constantly want to conserve what's already there that we think it's a problem that it changes. The problem is if it changes because of us and because we are accelerating some kind of change. That's not always the case. Things are always changing. This might become complete grassland or complete forest in the next couple hundred years. We don't know, and it's not our It's not our role to stop it. The Earth constantly changes. It constantly goes through phases of a heated environment or that greenhouse effect and an ice age that constantly happens and has been happening for a long time. Our problem is that we may be accelerating processes of change and that we seem to think that change is a bad thing. But it's not. Just like animals in the past have gone extinct because of changes so that the elephant can exist, the elephant might also go extinct for changes that other animals can exist. So it's a bad thing when we accelerate the change. That's just to address whether it's a concern part of your question. But like I was saying, elephants are not destroyers. They are not, definitely, if there's too many elephants in a certain area, that carrying capacity can be exceeded, and then they can basically, you know what I was talking about, the grassland and the forest? If the elephants are constantly chomping on all the trees, then grassland takes over and that change happens. So that's what we mean. It doesn't mean they destroy the environment, but it all has to do with carrying capacity and how many elephants a certain environment can hold to be unchanged. It's very, very complicated when you think about it and complex, but it's a good question. Anyway, enough ranting. Let me send you over to Tristan for a bit of an update.
Well, it's always an interesting topic when it comes to elephants and management of the environment that they live in, because they are huge landscapers of where they live. Talking about things that are not really big landscapers but are quite interesting are netwing beetles, which is what we've got here, and there are two of them that are, by the looks of it, in an act of procreation. So it looks like mating netwing beetles that have found themselves perched on the edge of this little stick. And these guys, I'm afraid, don't quite have the same influence that the ellies do in their day-to-day lives. But the insect world, as a total, probably has more impact than what the elephants do. In fact, during the 2016 drought, the amount of food that was consumed during that drought, particularly when it came to grass, they reckon the termites were probably double what the mammals were in terms of consumption of grasses, which is absolutely amazing. And that's just termites. So you can imagine all the other insects that are involved, like harvester. Harvester termites are all exactly that. So they would have gone through all of those grass layers. And it's why when the drought was happening, we had no grass at all. It was very, very, very sparse and dusty and dry. And it's because the insects basically destroyed absolutely everything. These particular little insects, these netwing beetles, as you can see, display a aposematic coloration. So they are something that is not very tasty. I have never seen anything feeding on them, funnily enough. I've never seen a bird with them or a lizard or anything like that, and that's probably due to those bright orange and black coloration. But you only ever see them during summer. They are an insect that is not a insect that we see during winter. In fact, very, very few insects are around in winter. We go through a dormancy phase because of the cold, dry winters that we have, and then we start to see these guys coming out in the summer. Now, Marcel, I'm sorry, I'm going to shake the car a little bit because I thought I saw something on a leaf here that I just want to double check. I did see something on a leaf. I wonder if I can grab it because it's absolutely beautiful. I wonder if this is also very cool because, oh no, where have you guys gone now? That's not ideal. I'm trying to see if there's more of them. But there was two beetles, and I wanted to see what they were because they were sitting on this cluster leaf. And I've been seeing the cluster leaves of late. All of them are displaying these holes in them at the moment. And I've been trying to find what it is that is eating them. It's not a typical caterpillar pattern, this kind of feeding behavior. And so the answer maybe is those beetles. But they, as I bent down to look at them, they flew away. There was two of them. And so now I'm not sure if they are the ones that are actually eating it or if there's something else. I'm going to take another little look here quickly, Dory. Marcel, you can stay on me for a second as we rummage through this little cluster leaf here. I'm trying to see if there's any more of them, but they were the most beautiful color. Oh, there they are. Marcel, if you can follow my finger, I'm going to try and see. Do you see it here on the edge of the leaf? If I turn it. There we go. Look at the coloration on this guy. Absolutely beautiful. It's got these greens and bronzes. I don't know what you are. Sorry, Marcel. That's a pretty cool looking little insect. I have absolutely no idea. Maybe part of the tortoise beetle family? I'm going to have to look that up and see. Maybe one of you out there will know what this is. Alex, you're asking how long beetles are pregnant for. Well, unlike mammals, they don't carry a young, so they lay their eggs and then the eggs are fertilized. So there's no real pregnancy phase for them. But I'm fascinated by these guys because I have never seen this particular beetle species. Either that or a chafer, maybe one of the chafers. Either way, very, very pretty. Got little bronzes and greens all over it, which is cool. And I think they're the ones that are responsible for the damage on these cluster leaves at the moment. If you look at this bush, this poor thing has been eaten everywhere. When I first saw something on the leaf, I thought it maybe was a bird-dropping caterpillar, but it wasn't. And so I wonder if it's them. I need to pay more attention to the various cluster leaves in the area and see if I can find more of those, because like I say, all of them are showing that damage at the moment. And so if it is those beetles, they should be then fairly common on every single one of the trees. Interesting. That's what I love about being. About that. My mic switched off when I got into the car. So, you know, in my case, it's been over 10 years of being in this reserve, and the fact that we can still find things that are new to us that we haven't seen before is what makes being out here so interesting. I absolutely love that side of it, is that you don't know what you're going to get around any corner. It could be something exciting like a pack of wild dogs chasing after something. It could be a beetle you've never seen before, a bird you've never seen before. It's always so special. Linda, you say maybe a scarab beetle. I didn't catch the first part of it. Did you catch the first part, Marcel? I got Linda, but I didn't get I just got scarab beetle, that's all I got. I mean, it could be part of the scarab beetle families. I mean, dung beetles, etc. Are part of that, so it would be interesting. But, I mean, we don't get a scarab that looks that color, I don't think. I'll need to check it and make double sure. The insect books, unfortunately, for South Africa, they are very general. They don't delve deep into all of the insects that we have, which is, I mean, to be expected. It's not an easy thing to compile a field guide to all of the insects, plus photographs and everything else. So it's a bit of a synopsis of what we've got. So I'll try and figure it out. I'm sure one of you out there is smart enough to have gotten a screenshot and to know what it is. I know there's some very, very clever individuals, and particularly with the insects. So maybe we'll get lucky and one of you will actually know it, which will help us out a lot. But either way, it's a beautiful insect, and one that I'm quite glad that we managed to find. Look how ominous those skies look. Sure. It's actually quite pretty because there's a bit of color now coming through as we're starting to approach sunset. You're starting to get this slight little bit of kind of, I don't know what the color would be, but almost a sort of pinky hue that's coming in underneath the dark blue clouds. Like I say, it does look quite ominous off to the southwest at the moment. You can see a little peak of a hill just on the horizon there. I don't know if you can make it out just to the right of that tree. So that little peak is inside Londolozi. And then if we come to the left, so a lot of you will often wonder where we kind of are. So that's a little kind of peak to the left. And then between two trees far to the left, if you keep coming, Marcel, there's another little peak over there. Now that little one is inside Ulusaba. I don't know if you're on the right one, but I think you know a little bit more to the left, Marcel. There it is, there, between those two trees. So that one there is inside Olasaba, and that is the western boundary of the Sabi Sand. So it's kind of to the southwest of where we are, but just on the other side of that hill is where the western boundary lies, and then after that is community land. And there's a kind of camp that is built in that area over there. Beautiful, though. It's also gone really, really quiet. Earlier when we were sitting on the rock and we were just listening and hoping for alarm calls, there was lots of birds chirping. There was, woodland kingfisher, there was Wahlberg's eagle, there was various hornbill species. But now it's gotten to that point where it's just that kind of silent hush. And if I keep quiet for a little bit, you'll hear it's almost the silence is a little bit deafening at the moment. Right, well, I was going to be silent, but it sounds like Dan has found a bird, and birds generally don't stick around, so let's quickly ship you off to him.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Thanks, Tristan. What we have here is a few ground hornbills, actually. Incredibly beautiful birds. Red faces and the black bodies. See the one in the background, the juvenile without the red and the black. You can see the white just to the outside of the wings. Now, this is quite a beautiful family group over here. You see how they're all moving in the riverbed, kind of looking for food. And now their food will comprise of all sorts of things, from tortoises that love the rain. You'll often see tortoises at this time of the year coming out from their kind of extended slumber, almost like a form of hibernation during the dry winter time. You'll see those big strong beaks will get shoved right into the holes of a tortoise shell. Snakes, they love snakes. Reptiles, frogs, small mammals. Even this time of the year, I know we've been talking a lot about impala lambs. You see that big bull and those big feet? A ground hornbill is even capable of taking down a baby impala. It's quite difficult to imagine. It is such a big bird. It's just popped. Let me move forward a tad here. Let's see if we can't get onto the other side of that palm. How's that, Beaks? All right there. There they go. See, there's a group of 5 of them. Well, I've counted 5. There might be more. You see how that one kind of flicked the dung? Might be a little scorpion or a small insect that's underneath there. It's actually quite an endangered bird. And it's amazing to see such a group of them. And you see there was only one juvenile there. You see the one without the red face. It's due to their very unique breeding strategy. See, they'll kind of, let's see if I can't move forward again one more time here quickly. That should be good. Fiona, do certain birds change plumage depending on the season? The answer to your question is yes. Breeding season is different in different birds, but you'll see particularly the males will generally change their plumage, and often it'll just be a color that comes into, like a brightness of a certain color will become quite obvious and prominent. Oopsie. Even bill colors or the colors of their beaks, tail lengths, those will all change depending on the seasons. Not with all birds though. But yeah, I was talking about how these birds are actually endangered, and it's due mostly to habitat loss. They're very fussy with the types of nests that they choose. They'll try and their natural nests will be like a small cavity or quite a big cavity to hold quite a big bird. I mean, it stands over 1 meter tall, that bird, and in a dead tree, and they'll lay 2 eggs, of which one of the eggs will be killed, so they'll only have 1 young, and it'll be only every several years. And you see the whole group will only have 1 egg between all of them, and they all kind of help to look after it. Let's see if I can roll back a bit here. It looks like they're about to leave the riverbed, unfortunately. Oh, there they are. Not just yet. You can kind of see that white stripe on the outside of their wings. It's beautiful when they fly off. The contrast of the black and the white and the red on the face really is stunning. Kind of separating, covering as much ground as they can. Rex, these birds will certainly, if they get the chance, maybe not a huge python, but will these birds take on a python or a big snake? Yes, they certainly will. Even venomous snakes. Puff adders are a favorite meal of these ground hornbills. So they've kind of just gone off into picture, but you'll see them kind of moving on the ground. You see how they kind of spread out like that. You'll see them moving through the grasses often as well, looking for big snakes, venomous snakes, frogs, small mammals. Yeah, and I mean, you saw the size of that big, even a tortoise I was mentioning. Oh, they're back. Apparently they're back. BK tells me that. Have a look. This one quite hasn't got the memo just yet. He's not convinced that everything's been checked thoroughly. And now it's kind of going back again. It's amazing what the riverbed, I mean, particularly when it's raining, I try and spend as much time as I can in the riverbed because it's the easiest to drive around in. And yeah, I mean, the birds and the lions and the leopards love to use this riverbed. It's far more comfortable for them. Okay, so quite interestingly, there's a guide that's just, oh, look at that one going. Is it going to fly? Look at the white. Kevin, how long can these birds stay without food? They don't often spend too long without food because they spend almost all day looking for food. And you see them moving around on the ground like that. Even if it's just small little bits of food, they're quite good at finding it. So, I mean, throughout the day, they'll find many meals. It might be a couple of days that they can go, a couple of hours without a serious meal. Look at them, they're kind of harassing that one. I wonder what's going on there. Kind of pushing and shoving. Look at that wing. Look at the white and the black. Look at that. They're using that really strong bull. That juvenile as well is kind of pushing its weight around. Is it going to fly? There it goes. Look at the black and the white I was telling you about. Oh, Beaks is doing a great job to keep with it. Oof, let's try and reverse. Okay, and they've actually, in fact, flown off. What I'm going to do, there's a guide that's just popped into the riverbed just ahead of us, and he's managed to find the rest of the Birmingham Pride. So not far away from where we had those other two members. So just stick with us quickly. It's not far from where we are now. Let's see what they are up to. It is that time of day when they're going to be moving around. If you have a look up ahead, you can actually see that other vehicle. And if you look very carefully, you can start to see a few lions. Bear with me, I know it's a bit bumpy and I'm trying to get you as quickly as I can. Have a look, you can see them kind of moving up there. I'm going to stop right here, have a look at the rest of the Birmingham Pride. It seems like it's a little bit too far for them to actually hear that contact calling that we heard that one doing. But have a look, they're all up right in the riverbed. It's that time of the day. They're now going to get up and start potentially moving around. They are heading in the direction as to where we had those other ones. Look at that white lion, the young male, licking and cleaning. Doing a very good job. I mean, we were talking about getting ticks and things off their bodies earlier. Look how easily it can actually get into a place that you think that it wouldn't be able to. Here comes the white female as well. Oh, I spoke too soon. As I said that, she kind of sat down. But have a look. I mean, the bigger lionesses are the ones that are moving around. I wonder what their next move's going to be. If they're going to lie down, that might be a cue for the rest of the pride to also lie down. However, if they... one sitting down on the left and the one on the right as well. However, if they did decide to keep moving, I have no doubt that the rest of this pride is going to follow them. So there's that white female. She's kind of just watching in the cover of the reeds, not far away from the rest of the pride. Just watching. It's actually beautiful lighting. It is that time when the sun would normally be setting. However, I haven't seen the sun once today, but it is still producing a magnificent light. You see these reeds. We were talking about lions being camouflaged, and in the riverbed it can often be quite open. You'll see maybe a smaller antelope might carelessly move down into this area, which will excite these lions incredibly. Kudu on the banks might move down. I mean, these Birmingham Pride actually haven't been on Ngala for the past couple of days. They've been in the Kruger Park, very close to Auckland Camp, as far as I'm aware. And I think they ate quite a big meal there. It sounded like a giraffe. I had a friend who drove past Auckland Camp and said he saw 2 white lions. And yeah, I mean, they've now come back, straight back into the middle of their territory. They're looking down that way of the river towards where those other 2 are. I wonder if they're not going to try and join up. Listen, I don't think they can hear those soft contact calls. However, maybe in the time that we've left, they've gotten a bit louder, in which case they might be hearing those contact calls. Couple of yawns, couple of stretches here and there. Heads are all pretty much up. Look at this one kind of watching us. They're listening, hey? Every little movement, every little noise. So I'm waiting for that lioness at the back. She's one of the bigger and more dominant ones to get up. I'm watching her very carefully and closely. See if she doesn't kind of get everybody else to move. Or we might watch the younger ones. I mean, you see that white one licking its back. Maybe it's going to get a bit impatient, or he's going to get a bit impatient, start playing with the siblings. What a scene though, right in the riverbed. This Birmingham Pride can sometimes... Here comes this little one, okay? This white one has now got up. Let's see what her response is when she walks into this pride. Oh, not going to walk into the pride. So I'm going to hang here. I think this is going to be a great opportunity, particularly as it's getting a little bit later in the day, to maybe watch them get up and move along the riverbed if we're very lucky. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you somewhere else.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
What makes Anby Untitled Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
We have success, everybody. We found Tlalamba, which is exactly what we're doing. We came one last time to do a loop around, and we were sitting and we heard two duikers alarm calling, and then saw them flying out in front of us. And so we drove in to just check if we could find anything, and we hadn't found anything. And then we found some impalas, and they were looking a bit nervous. And as we kind of pulled up, then we saw these impalas start shouting and running, and her flying at them, trying to chase the lambs. And so now we're just trying to keep up with her. As you can see, she's on a bit of a mission. But I'm so excited that we managed to find her, because, you know, when it comes to Tlalamba, it can be super, super tricky. And for us to have had her 3 out of 3 in terms of game drives in the last 24 hours is pretty special. She's not a cat that is easy to, 1, keep up with, and 2, to find. So very, very excited that we've managed to find her. Like I say, hopefully at some point she's going to slow down, because for now it's all systems go, and we are in full steam ahead with Tlalamba. She's going pretty quickly. Hopefully she's going to scent mark at this tree. I'm just going to turn so that we don't have the roof in the way. There we go. It's so beautiful at the moment, though, especially with viewing these leopards, that golden coat in this green grass. It's such a nice contrast of color. I absolutely love that for summer, when you get this contrast between that sort of spotted pattern and the bright green of the summer grass. It makes them just look that much prettier and stand out from their environment. All right, let's catch up with her. Excellent. So we know she's hunting, which is always a good thing. She's a busy cat when she hunts, so I'm pretty sure she's going to go after anything and everything that's in her path, whether that be duikers, steenbok, impalas, scrub hares, any of that will be on the menu for her. I'm hoping that she's going to go onto the road, because the road's just in front of us here. The problem is if she turns more eastwards, we're going to have a bit of a struggle, because the signal's not too good down that side. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to kind of see her just cross straight over, and then it'll be okay. No, she's going east, of course she is. If I just sit here, hopefully she's going to come out into the road in front of us. But she is looking so good. Looks like she's had a meal last night. When I saw her this morning, she looked pretty full, so I expect that she ate something last night. But everything about her is looking good. Her muscular structure, everything looks 100%, and it's always good when you see happy, healthy kitties, especially young, happy, healthy kitties, which is good. Megan, you're saying slow down Tlalamba? Yes, it would be nice if she did. You can see why she can be a tough cat for us. You know, when we're walking,
we don't walk at this speed. And also you can see how she's not sticking to one direction. She's kind of moving a lot. And that makes it quite tricky for us to track her. She's definitely one of the harder cats to keep up with. But there we go, onto the road, just like that. It's like almost as if, now you found me, now I'll walk down the road and be happy. But don't go that way, Tlalamba. You're going the wrong way at this stage. What's going to be interesting, though, is with all that commotion of those impalas shouting at her, whether that attracts Tandi's attention, if Tandi is indeed in this area. It's going to be interesting to see whether she responds to those alarm calls or if she just leaves it. The other thing that we did find while we were here now is a track for a single wild dog as well that's running around. So one of those animals might respond to these alarm calls and make their way kind of where we are. All right, let's catch up with her, because unfortunately as it starts to drop there, we're going to start to lose our signal. So I want to just get closer so that we can at least watch her if she carries on walking down the road. Rusty's got a lovely little squeak at the moment as well. Oh, there we go. My favorite when they do this, when they flop down and then they roll around like absolute little hooligans, and rub their faces and go on their tummies. You silly sausage, what are you doing? I've got to groom ourselves. And it's often the reason they're doing that is that they find either a dung pile, so something for like a buffalo that's defecated there, or there's a scent that they want to just rub over the top of it. So then they flop down and they roll and they kind of leave their little mark with their facial glands. You just don't find that it's a urinating thing. They're generally just trying to kind of get some sort of scent on them as well as leaving something on wherever it is that they've rolled in. But they always get these naughty faces when they do it. That's why I absolutely love watching them go about their business. So special to spend time with her. As much as she's difficult, I think that's what makes me like her so much, is because it's always a challenge with her. It's never easy. I mean, some days you find her kind of walking on the road, but you always got to have your wits about you to travel with her and to kind of follow her and think about where she's going to be. I'm just intrigued at how far she's walking to the east. I wonder if she's not in an estrus cycle and is looking for a male. You can see she's marking all the way along, which would indicate that maybe, just maybe, she's trying to find a male. And at the moment, Mulawati hasn't been in this area. We haven't been finding tracks for him. He seems to be hanging around more to the south. So maybe he's just, I don't know, maybe he's not around. Tingana's kind of been in and out. So maybe it's just making it a little bit more tricky for her to find a male to actually mate with at the moment. And that's why she's moving out of her territory so much. All right, let's catch up with her. Like I say, I'm hoping the signal will stay until that little bump that she went over. That should be about the limit for us. Unfortunately, it drops off pretty quickly from here. But if we get up onto that bump, we should be good. So if it does break up a little bit, I do apologize. I also do need to get 2 other vehicles into the sighting at some point. So I'll have to listen to my radio. Are you going to go into the block for us? She might be doing us a favor here. Let's see. She's got her tail up, which means something's shouting at her. I don't know if it's a bird or impalas or something, but her tail is definitely up and her nose is to the ground. What have you smelt, Tlalamba? She's smelling something. All right, well, we're going to... Oh, she's going to go behind the pole, of course she is. We're going to follow her through this block. Hopefully she will lead us to her mom. It would be quite something to see the 2 of them unite, because I would love to see the reaction between them. But in the meantime, off you go to Dan and the other big cats that we have this afternoon.
Good luck, Tristan. I hope Karamba does take you to her mom and or catches something along the way. But welcome back to the Birmingham Pride. What we are currently looking at here is the young Birmingham male. He isn't the male that is in charge of this pride. He's actually the son of one of the daughters, of one of them, the older lionesses. And he's still here. He's getting to the age of almost 5. And how he hasn't left this pride yet, I don't know. The males that are in charge, the Ross males, have been putting pressure on him since they got here for the past 3 years to kind of chase him away. He's taken an absolute beating along the process. You'll see he's got quite a bad limp at the moment because of it. But he just never seems to leave. However, with those younger males that are kind of growing up at just over 2 years old, he might kind of be waiting for them to get to the right age before they go. So I'm just going to move around. That one young male that I was talking about is actually, he's up and moving around and he's playing with his younger sisters. Look at the white colors. You see how much they stand out? Kind of digging in the sand. Like a litter box. Look at those two. I mean, the middle line being the young female and the one on the right being the young male, and then the one on the left being another young female. The color contrast is absolutely remarkable, and particularly at night, lions are predominantly active during the evenings, using dark nights to move around and hunt. Being white can be a super disadvantage on these hunts. However, if they are smart enough to kind of coordinate the hunt correctly, they can use the white distraction to their advantage to try and distract maybe some prey or use them to chase prey into other lions that are lying in wait. However, that young male you saw, if he were to leave this pride, which he will eventually, luckily he's got a few other brothers that are normal tawny colored lions that might blend in a bit better than he does. But if he were to leave on his own, hunting would be incredibly difficult. Particularly at night, you kind of stand out and glow. Look at this young female. She's incredibly curious, watching and listening. Kayla, how many white lions does Africa have? In total, I can't answer your question because there are people in places in zoos that have lots of white lions, and because of the genetic trait, you can take a female white lion and a male white lion to reproduce, and they'll reproduce white lions. However, in wild ecosystems, there are 4 that we know of. There's these 2 in the Birmingham Pride. There's one that's slightly east of us. He was hanging around Satara, which is a place in the Kruger National Park, and then heading a little bit further east, almost towards the Mozambican border. And then there were reports a few weeks ago, deep in one of the Kruger blocks, of another white lion cub. So 3 that we really know about, and the 4th one is a speculation, and if it's still around, we're not 100% sure. But in the wild ecosystems, these are 2 of 4 that you're seeing, and this is one of the only places that you can consistently see them, although it's never a guarantee because they may disappear into Kruger for days at a time. Big yawn. Showing signs of maybe trying to move around. Bunny Blue, why are the other 2 females separated from the pride? My guess would be, I mean, members do often separate from the pride. My guess would be maybe that females might have even left to give birth to her cubs. And as we saw, she did have that big belly and her teats were starting to look quite obvious. I wonder if she hasn't left to try and find a den site. Why the other younger females with her, I can't tell you. I'm not 100% certain. However, in the next couple of days, maybe we'll come to a better conclusion as to why they've separated themselves. It'll be very interesting to see if she doesn't give birth in and around the riverbed there. Good place for her, and that'll give her cubs the best shot at surviving. There are actually quite a few members of this pride missing here. I'm just going to try and have a proper count here again. So I count 11. So including the next 2 that we saw earlier, 12, 13, the 2 males, 14, 15, and then the 2 smallest cubs who I haven't seen in quite a long time. That takes it up to 17. And I wonder where one more is. Maybe one's lying in the grass here that I've just missed. but sitting at 18 lions, 11, maybe 12 of them sitting here in front of us. It's a lot of mouths to feed, and you'll see often we're talking about the separation and maybe those two lionesses who have moved away and that we saw earlier. Lions, I mean, this area is super well known for super prides in the Kruger Park, from all the way from here at Auckland towards Satara. It's world renowned for having these huge lion prides. And this pride got up to about 28 a few years ago, in which case a few lionesses kind of separated themselves and started a new territory in the west. Have a look, something has got their attention. I don't know what it is. I wonder if it's not a noise. But they all seem to be looking behind us. I can't see anything just yet, although I'm going to be keeping a good lookout for them. But even at 18 lions, this pride, it can be tricky to feed 18 lions. You've got to kill pretty frequently and pretty large prey as well. So they'd come off a giraffe carcass in the Kruger Park, which is a large carcass which lasted them a couple of days. And they're not looking very hungry here. However, this evening, if they do get up and move around, which they may very well, and they come across an opportunity, they'll take it, and that'll keep them going for the next couple of days. But you'll see the idea of trying to take bigger prey, and you'll see they'll target the bigger prey like buffalo and giraffe. Zake, how do we identify the lions? So there's lots of different ways. I mean, this pride has got those two very obvious ones that stand out quite a lot, and obviously being white in color, they make it a little bit easier to have a look at. This one that we're having a look at, you can see the mane being a male, and it's a little bit dark, but you'll start to look at their faces, and they'll have certain scars that they pick up as they're growing, and those will be things to look out for. Limps, maybe tears in their ears. Those are all things that you kind of look out for. There's a lioness in this pride, one of the lead ones, who was up earlier. She's kind of lay back down, but if you look at her very carefully, you shall see she's got like a white dot on the back left leg. That's a good way to identify her. So the only real way to ID them is to spend a lot of time and examine them very closely, particularly those markings on their faces and scars. So, I mean, that lioness who's in the top left of the frame, she is she's got the one with that white dot on the back of her back leg, and the only reason I know it's her is because I saw her get up earlier and saw that very obvious white dot. It's amazing having this technology of this infrared camera. I mean, there's no light on them whatsoever, and we're not disturbing or influencing them in any way, but we're able to view them almost under the complete darkness. One of the lionesses is up, maybe have a bit of a stretch. Just kind of repositioning. Back down. Kami, do the other Pride members recognize the white lions as being different? I'm sure they'd be able to see the difference. However, they don't treat them any differently. You'll see this young female, she gets treated no differently. She's got exactly the same respect as everybody else and is, at the end of the day, another lion. She's slightly different in color, but they don't have any different reaction to it. You'll see the young male as well, incredibly interesting. He is amongst his brothers that are around at the moment, and there's 4 of them. I'm just listening carefully, quickly. See how she turned her head quickly as well. I wonder if she didn't hear the same thing as I did. I wonder if it wasn't another lion. But you'll see that young white male, he is actually the most dominant. He's the biggest as well in the 2 litters that were born at the very same time. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's white. It's just his genetic makeup, and he's slightly bigger and slightly stronger, and he's got a bit more of an attitude than his brother, and it has nothing to do with the color. So I reckon these lions can tell that these lions are different in color, but they don't treat them any differently, and they don't behave any differently either. That white lion, what she just watched, was one of those ground hornbills we were with earlier. It flew over behind us and out of picture. But was just watching this great big bird fly over us. I think she's kind of getting a little bit impatient with everyone. She's ready to go, ready to play. I wonder if I'm surprised she hasn't got up and kind of encouraged her sister or one of her cousins to get up and start messing around. You'll often see her stand up and go right up to one of the older lionesses, rub her head up against them, and try and tell her that they want to move. So I'm going to hang around here for the next short while, see if these lions don't get up. There are signs of them licking and stretching. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you to Trishala with her hyenas.
I'm back at the den because there was a report of a hyena with a young cub at the dam camp. And now look at this. That's June. See that floppy here? That's June. And she has put something into the den. She's had her head in the den. That's Swazi standing with her. And that's Corky's cub. Oh, look at her. Look how she's investigating the den. Look at that. Could we have a new little cub? Hello, June girl. Look how interested Swazi is. There's also very, very, very squeaky, very young squeals and squitters. This is a very, very, very exciting. June using the communal den, I mean, it can only mean one thing. There's our lovely rain roof pole, just to keep things interesting. Guys, I think this means we have a new addition to the Juma clan. I just want to listen very, very carefully to everything that's going on. They must be so excited. I'm so excited. Come on, let's see if we'll see anything. So this, see how much she's gone in there? If we were on the other side, you'll still be able to see her bottom. It's because we're on this side. We can't see her, but she won't be able to fit completely into the den. But she's going to tend to that little one. There's literally no other reason at all for her to be doing this. I am so, so excited. She's seated herself now in the usual position to suckle a little cub in the den, which is to plonk her bottom in and to sit with her head out. That's how she'd suckle a little cub. Oh, this is too special. This is too special. Stop irritating the new baby, little Corky. Swazi's just keeping everybody in line. we get a glimpse, but I doubt it. Oh, I could only hope, but we're just gonna have to find out and come. Oh, thought for a second that was it. All right, we're gonna have to come back tomorrow, obviously, and hope that we'll be able to see a new Juma clan cub.
Welcome back, everybody. I really am excited about that Juma cub as well. That is exciting news. Now, what I'm going to do for the next few moments is actually just spend time in silence. I heard a lion roaring in the background. So I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the bush is absolutely alive. I mean, after this rain, the frogs and the insects are going absolutely mad. There was a lion that was roaring far in the distance as well. I'm sure it's one of the males to this pride, also potentially trying to join up. Gonna spend a bit of time. I'd love to see the rest of these lions kind of reply to that call or even get up and move in that direction.
Her teeth and memory glands are. And just repositioned so we can see the front of the den. You can see we're in infrared, so we're not using any kind of artificial light. It also means we'll easily be able to see if there's a cub, if it pops its head out. Excitement, guys. It might be too young. It might only be a week old, even less. Spotted hyenas have been known to bring very, very, very young cubs to communal dens. I'm just so ecstatic that June has brought it to this den, because that must mean that she's at least a little bit in favor with the matriarch. You go, girl. I love how Swazi was a part of this, almost like a protector or an escort, whatever it was, chaperone. The cubs are so curious, they're all around sniffing. Oh, that was just wonderful. Who is this new person? comes Swazi, the guard, and faithful playmate to all little hyena cubs. They're moving off now, which means that we're gonna have to move off too. Oh, what a special moment. What a special moment. All right, let's move, especially with a brand new young cub in there. We really, really, really don't want to entice them out. How exciting! Seems like I'm gonna have to camp at the den tomorrow. And get sight of this little one. Oh, that is magnificent. That is spectacular. My apologies that I was not able to do the spore experiment with you this evening. Maybe we might still find a community nest spider we can have a look at. There's just a few minutes left of show, but we will try. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so happy. Brand new life. Scrub here, will you do with us the honors and be with us for the close of the show? There it is. You can see the two very, very, very large eyes. I'm so satisfied with a really nice hyena day. See what I did there? See? Oh, look at this. Hoppity hop. And have a safe night to scrub here. Keep an eye on the den for us. Well, you know what the plan for tomorrow is, and I hope that you all enjoyed today's drive. I certainly have. I'm glad that the weather held up. Didn't have too much rain, and I've been loving it, so I hope you have too. Thank you everyone for your questions and your comments. See you in the morning, and bye-bye for now.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.